Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Okay, we are live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel here. I know Judd's excited because the Minnesota Vikings just finished an emphatic, dominant statement victory, 16-3 over arch division rival Green Bay Packers to secure a winning record on the 2025 season. Judd, get the flag. Get the...
I got no flag. Here,
No?
here, look at the logo. Just look at the logo and imagine it's waving.
That is an exit.
That is an exit for the
and-
2025 Vikings.
That's
Touche.
an exit.
Good point. Great point. Very excited. Clayton, too, never saw it coming, and I literally mean it. He never saw it.
He never saw a lot of things
He
today,
never
I
saw
feel.
anything. He's just glad to be done.
Also, somebody might want to remind Max Brosmer in the NFL, you must be touched by an opponent when your knee hits the ground. Maybe we can get that right for the 2026 season and some other things. But this is the final in-season Vikings Vent Line of the 2025 season here live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. This is going to be a forward-looking, we're going to dive right into what might wind up being a juicy offseason for the Vikings here. And we want to hear your opinions as we go forth here the next hour and a half, 2 hours on what you think the Vikings should do this offseason. What's on your checklist as a fan? What would you do at the quarterback position? So we'll turn the show over to you guys here shortly. This is the People Show, the most fan-friendly show in all of Minnesota sports. And if you'd like to get on, send a request to us, vikingsventline@gmail.com. We'll try to get to as many of you as possible. Keep it clean. Keep it snappy so we can get through as many fans as possible here, Judd. But let's start the offseason at Quick Trip. The only way we know how, starting this show at Quick Trip.
Heck, let's start the year at Quick Trip, because tomorrow, guess what? It's back to work. That's right. We're all going back to work. Thank God things get back to normal. And that means you're driving to work, but you've been off for 2 weeks. And you know what? You get halfway to work and you realize I forgot breakfast. What am I going to eat for breakfast? And that's where Quick Trip comes into play. Their $6 breakfast combo includes a breakfast sandwich, a 2-pack of hash browns, and any size Karuba coffee or Big Buddy as well for only $6. There's also a $7 lunch combo. In other words, if you are driving to work and you are like, I forgot my stuff because I've been off for 2 weeks, Quick Trip's like, we have not been off. We've been working hard to serve you. All about convenience at Quick Trip.
Also, a shout out to North American Banking Company for presenting Vikings Vent Line all season long here. So, Judd, you're at the stadium. You're at U.S. Bank Stadium right now. So we'll give the floor to you. We usually do your main takeaway from the game. I mean, I don't really care about the game unless you have a takeaway from the game. But, like, what's your number one takeaway going into the offseason off this game?
Just quickly from today, I would like to say this. Harrison Smith, especially him, and C.J. Ham were both vetted. I mean, they're both very clearly done. And so with that being said, it's been a great run. And in my opinion, Harrison Smith belongs in Canton someday. Yeah. C.J. Ham obviously doesn't, but he had a 10-year career from nowhere. So just quickly on those two, congratulations. They got huge cheers. They deserved it. Exactly. Shout out. My takeaway is this. If the Vikings were, and I don't know what the plan was today, okay? I don't know if starting McCarthy was some type of like, we want to see him get more reps or play, but you answered 0 questions, which is what I thought. You answered nothing. So I just think when you look at where this team is going, this is going to be one of the juiciest, and I say this, we've done this show with juicy off seasons. This is going to be juicy. This is going to be strap in. The season starts tomorrow, and it's going to be very interesting. I think O'Connell is safe, but I don't think his entire coaching staff is. Kwesi, I'm curious about. My sense is that he will not be removed, but if I was the Vikings, I would strongly consider it or do it. The quarterback, we have no idea. Like, don't just assume, hey, they're going to get a backup. I was talking to a couple of my colleagues today, and they were exactly right. They're like, what makes the Vikings so confident that they're just going to go out and sign a really good backup who says, you know what, I don't want to compete. Like, the whole point was they lost Jones. Daniel Jones was going to come back until he got an offer from a team that had a lot more uncertainty at quarterback with the Colts. So I would not, I think McCarthy's back to compete, but I'm not positive. So strap in and make no assumptions. Like, I feel like, and I'm guilty too, but we all make assumptions, right, about what's going to happen. Just remember, this is the Vikings. It's the Wilfs. I've covered them for their entire time here. They are not patient. Do not assume that you know that McCarthy's the guy. Do not assume anything. This team has a lot, in my opinion, a lot of turnover coming, and it's going to be incredibly interesting to watch.
Yeah. And if you are a Vikings fan or a football fan who kind of checks out for a while after the season's over, let us be your guide throughout the offseason. We pride ourselves on keeping you up to date with roster moves, with everything that's being reported. And we're going to bring back latest Vikings news now that the offseason has hit here in the next couple days. And we'll do our offseason blueprint episodes. In fact, our first offseason blueprint episode where we attempt to play general manager collectively and go through the entire Vikings offseason, internal, external, draft, everything, is going to be on Friday night this week at Mystic Lakes Hop House. It's going to be 6 to 8 o'clock. There's also a college football playoff game happening on Friday night. And so Thor Nystrom's going to join us for the couple hours there too. And we're going to be, this is, by the way, this is the only guarantee you have to watch this live is in person at Hop House. We likely will record it and it'll be available on YouTube, but come hang out with us and let's explore the Vikings offseason blueprint together for the first time with the spreadsheet of glory making its official debut. But yeah, I think like to that point, the organization has to take a stance on JJ McCarthy more than it did 9 or 10 months ago. And we'll go through some of the latest reporting throughout the weekend here from Kevin Seifert and Diana Rossini. But it feels like they missed out. I don't think Sam Darnold was ever really an option because he wanted to go like actually be a starting quarterback with no ambiguity. But they lost out on Daniel Jones because there was too much ambiguity about, well, I mean, if I'm coming back, is this a real competition? Because in Indianapolis it is. I'm going to go beat Anthony Richardson and just be the starter. So they have to take a stance soon on J.J. McCarthy. Did you see enough in 10 games, parts of 10 games, to make him the number one guy in pencil that someone else has to beat out? Or, and this is the stance I think they're going to take, is he on the team as a backup and you're going hunting for an actual starting quarterback either via trade or via free agent signing sometime in the next 2 or 3 months? But I think like my biggest takeaway off of today going into the offseason is, once again, and I know that it was the Packers' backup defense and the game really meant nothing. Once again, you see some major flashes from McCarthy, major upside from McCarthy, and people are going to fight and say he's garbage or whatever. I think if you watch him play, especially the last 5 games or so, it's obvious to me that there's ability there. Like the guy can play. There's definitely some things to iron out, but he can play. But every time you start to think, oh, he can play a little bit, this is great, starting to envision him as the franchise quarterback, either a new injury pops up or a re-aggravation of an old injury pops up, and it puts a pause on his season and a pause on his career. And so the body of work now over 2 years with 4 different injuries, a couple of them that have popped up more than once, like re-aggravating, you only have a 10-game sample size to go off of here as you just spent the most cash on your roster of any team in the NFL. And there's pressure to win. You don't get to coast and figure it out again in 2026 at that position.
The other thing, too, is, and I think this is important, at least from my standpoint, the most disappointing season of anyone involved with this team, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell showed himself to be a lot of things that we didn't think. And that man coming into 2025 walked on water. Why McCarthy played today, and I know I got it. Reps. He needs reps. His hand is broken. Ladies and gentlemen, now this is a whole nother problem, but his hand was broken. You could see he was in pain playing the entire game. You're telling me those are valuable reps while playing hurt in a meaningless game? Kevin O'Connell, I thought, had J.J. McCarthy's 22. He might not be good. Kevin O'Connell, though, had done a really good job. And this year came, and I thought he was very, very mediocre to bad a lot of times. I am more disappointed in O'Connell than McCarthy because we learned a lot about a guy that we thought could take a quarterback and mold him. And at the end of the day, he took this QB, and I don't think, I mean, they made some strides, but not nearly as many. And the inability to adapt to his game, to me, throughout the course of the season when it mattered was really, really a red flag.
So I think there's like a black and white raging debate layered on top of this entire season and into the offseason about, and it goes back to the quote from the Rich Eisen show the organizations fail young quarterbacks before or more than the other way around. And I think there's just been this debate over whose fault is it that the Vikings have had bad quarterback play largely throughout the entire season. Is it, well, the front office and or the identification of the quarterback and the quarterback himself that are just bad? Like it doesn't matter who the head coach is. He's just a bad quarterback, is what a lot of people would say. What's Kevin O'Connell supposed to do? McCarthy's not accurate. He's young. He's inexperienced. All these things. But then on the flip side, it's, well, Kevin O'Connell is supposed to be a quarterback whisperer who is meeting this quarterback where he is. He doesn't speak the same language after 6, 7, 8 years in the NFL as the Sam Darnolds and Kirk Cousins who've been around long enough. And I think the answer lies somewhere in between. That, okay, the Vikings made some bets back in like February, March on their quarterback position. They bet that Sam Darnold was not going to be worth $30 to $35 million a year as they look to build a roster. And part of that bet was he might regress a little bit going into, I think we just lost Judd there. Hopefully he can find his way back in. That he's not worth $30 million a year or $100 million overall contractually. And we can make that bet because Daniel Jones is going to re-sign, and we're going to have the next Sam Darnold basically coming in here to flank J.J. McCarthy, who, and this is the third bet that they made, has a high enough floor and enough durability after he comes back from the meniscus injury where we trust that he's going to be able to get in there and at least operate this $350 million roster in a way that gets them to the playoffs. And they missed on all of those bets. They missed because, obviously, if you would go back to February or March now and ask, knowing what you know throughout the season, would you like to have Sam Darnold on your team for like $30 or $35 million? I think the answer would be yes, organizationally. If you could maybe not be so sure that Daniel Jones was going to, they literally thought, based on Kevin Seifert's reporting, that it was kind of a done deal. He was in the building in November and December. He's for sure going to come back. He didn't. And then they didn't really have a great plan B after Daniel Jones. But it's okay. It's okay because we drafted McCarthy 10th overall, and we feel like the meniscus thing was a fluke. He's going to put the weight back on. He lost 40 pounds recovering from the meniscus injury, and he's going to have at least a game manager high floor, and he's going to play all the games or most of them. And they literally whiffed on all three of those bets. And I'll raise my hand. I'm not running a football team. I'm just a guy on a podcast. But I would have been if you would have told me back in March, hey, they're going to go 0 for 3 on these bets, I would have said, no way, dude. No way. I would be shocked if they're going to go 0 for 3 on these bets. And I was wrong. They were wrong. A lot of people were wrong.
But that's because where we were really wrong was O'Connell. Where we were really wrong, you know what? I'm watching that Seahawks game last night against San Fran, and boy, it started off very similar to the Detroit game in Week 18. And fourth down, Darnold completely chokes a throw, and you're like, okay, here we go. And guess what Clint Kubiak and company did? They're like, that's okay, because we run the ball. I blame Darnold, and I still do. He had a terrible game in Week 18 at Ford Field. But you know what we learned last night? O'Connell's insistence that he was going to pass that damn ball was a huge problem. It was a red flag that we simply did not identify. And there was a discussion on the telecast last night that I thought was very enlightening, and that is, and I don't watch a bunch of Seahawks games, but they were talking about the fact the Seahawks had a long stretch where the run game didn't work. And
they were not a good run team. Yeah.
And guess what they did? They continued to try to run the ball because you cannot give up the run. And with Darnold as your QB, you can't. So quite frankly, I think Darnold made the exact right call. Like if you could wave a magic wand and put him back in purple now, Vikings fans would say yes. He would say no. So these are the things, and with McCarthy, it just stuck out like a sore thumb, what this team needed to adjust and adapt. And the Vikings were unwilling to. And that is something I didn't see this coming. My disappointment is great because I'm disappointed in myself. I didn't see that Kevin O'Connell was this obstinate, this stubborn. I bought in hook, line, and sinker. And guess what? Sports Dad, egg on his face right now. Big time.
Dex, your biggest takeaway going into the offseason right now?
Yeah, it's an offseason of just uncertainty that we haven't really been used to, and an uncertainty that isn't like that optimistic. I think that's the biggest difference here. When they were clearly going to fire Zimmer, and then they, more surprisingly, also fired Spielman, that created optimism, right? Because that regime was over, and Vikings fans were sick of it, and it was, we get to do a coaching search and a GM search, and who are they going to bring in? Oh, they bring in Harbaugh. That was super fun, right? And then they line up their candidates, and they get Kevin O'Connell, they get Kwesi, and then it's like, okay, let's see what happens now with this team. This is now a situation where, not to say that there can't be firings or surprise people being let go from the organization, but it's an uncertainty that is not optimistic, and I think that's what's so fragile. I think going into this is we've been doing this for now. Well, we've done this for 5 seasons. I think the three of us doing six seasons, right? 6 seasons. And going into an off season, I can't remember of the 6 times us doing this that, man, I genuinely have no idea, and I can't really get a feel of what this off season looks like. Now, it's still we're still going to be super pumped for it and ready for it and all that, but when a season has ended, I've kind of been able to see some either light at the end of the tunnel or some type of thing that can say, all right, if they do this, I think I really like their chances for next season. And as of right now, I have no idea what that blueprint really looks like.
Well, I mean, if Positive Phil could barrel into a room that nobody wants him in right now, they did finish at the end of it all. They did finish 9-8 with measurably bottom 5 quarterback play for the duration of the season. And so there's a bunch of question marks about whether the defense can stay intact because of Harrison Smith retiring. Brian Flores is a free agent, so I will grant you those things. But if you can keep moving forward with, let's say Flores does come back and becomes the highest paid defensive coordinator, and you can still put together some semblance of a top 5 or 6 defense that gets after opposing quarterbacks, what would this all look like if you didn't have bottom 3 or bottom 5 quarterback play? And there's a bunch of paths to not having such putrid quarterback play in 2026. Path number 1 is McCarthy could just get better at age 23 and take steps forward and maybe be a league average quarterback in 2026. I think a lot of people are just kind of out on him. Maybe the Vikings are out on him. But there's a lot of other levers you can pull either via trade or free agent signing before we even get to the Joe Burrow big game hunting, the Lamar Jackson story that came out last week. If you just had the 16th ranked quarterback play, are you an 11-win team? Are you competing for a division and maybe hosting a playoff game? That's positive for looking at it. This is ultimately was a 9-win team with terrible quarterback play. Go fix the most important position somehow.
My problem is I've lost all faith in the people charged with making the decisions, and to a large degree, the guy calling the plays. That's my problem. I've just lost faith. You make me feel stupid once, that's your fault. Shame on you. Fool me twice.
Is it? Okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. If you make me feel stupid once, that's shame.
Fooled again.
But can't get fooled again. Exactly right. And so until you prove, this is the thing. In March, we're talking about, they're bringing in all these free agents. It's great. You got all this cap space. But the reality was that was just perfume on the stink of, well, we really don't draft well. Okay. Why do I have faith now? You got all these picks. Why do I think that you can draft well? If you whiff this bad on the quarterback, as it appears, and by the way, you couldn't even develop him a little bit, but then eventually you sort of got it right, but then today you forced him to start, why do I have faith in you? So yeah, I mean, there are paths to more wins, but the problem is, I'm at sort of a breaking point here now of I don't trust the process, to quote the 76ers.
Real quick, yeah, oh my God. That process took about 6 years
I know.
And then they didn't even get to the finals. But we'll line up a bunch of Vikings fans here in a minute. But this is the 3rd time that you've poked at the starting of McCarthy today. I'm wondering so he played in the first half.
Yeah.
He threw a pass in the second half, and obviously, so one quick thing here too is the broadcast explained that he declined the usual injection that a player would get for if you have a bad shoulder or whatever it is. There's an injection you can get that kind of numbs it for a few hours, and then it's really sore in 24 hours. Boone and Cyril's talk about this on O-line committee. And from what I understand, he had to choose between playing through pain or taking an injection that would numb his throwing hand, which would maybe be even worse if you're trying to get a feel for the ball. So he decided to go grind it out, maybe with some encouragement from Kevin O'Connell, who wanted to see him one more time. You saw him in the first half, and sounds like you're kind of pissed that they even put him out there in the first
He never should have played. Look, I keep seeing he needs reps. Well, yeah, he needs reps that are applicable to being able to throw the ball without pain. Like, he was grabbing his hand in the first half. My problem is this. You know what? At the end of the day, and this is what one of the things about O'Connell that drives me up the wall right now. You know those inconsistent parents who one day think one thing is hilarious and the next day you get in trouble? Kevin O'Connell had J.J. McCarthy ready to play because he was the third QB for 2 games coming off the high ankle sprain. He's like, no, he can't play yet. Now, if he's the third QB, it means he can play. It means you're electing not to play him because you're concerned about it. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm buying that. But today with a small fracture, there's no such thing as a small. It's a fractured hand. He decides to play him. Where's the consistency there?
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I would rather play my quarterback with a sore ankle than a broken hand.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That's what I don't like.
The double standard and kind of the 180-degree turn from he has to be a certain level of healthy to protect himself back in like October, and it's affecting his mechanics and his accuracy. And so Carson Wentz is a veteran, so we're going to throw him out there as a meat shield basically because we need McCarthy to be at a certain level physically before he can protect himself in a game.
Meat shield.
And then when it comes time for kind of a meaningless Week 18 game, they might say it's not meaningless because we need more information on this quarterback that we're trying to figure out where he fits into the equation. But yeah, like the inconsistency of how and when mechanics matter. They matter early in the year, but no, like let's just worry about processing the defense and we can worry about mechanics later in the season. And then the threshold needed to be able to defend yourself on a football field. And maybe the Vikings would say, well, a high ankle sprain is different because like you can't use your legs to get out of the way of a blitzing linebacker compared to a hand injury. So, but yeah, it is kind of interesting the fluctuating way in which they've handled some of these things. Dex, who's first out of the gate here? Vikings Vent Line live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel.
All right, yeah. Let's go to Joel and Friends. Joel and Friends. What's going on, guys?
Hey, we're on Vent Line.
Come on in here, crew.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Big crew.
Yeah, we got a couple out here.
Baby.
There we go.
We got dogs.
Baby,
We've got all the
dogs.
things.
And I have no takes for the end of the season of the Vikings this year, but we did write a couple things down on Judd's Camp Notes.
Nice.
There we go.
Oh, no, they're very, very wise. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Just the first thing I would say is, like all Vikings fans, we're ready for the offseason. It's been another one of those years. I am ready. We're in the Pacific Northwest out here, so unfortunately, as a bitter Betty, I am ready for the Sam Darnold propaganda. Thanks for Sam Darnold to stop and have him lay an egg in the playoffs. Little story here. About a year ago, I brought her home from the hospital. We sat down on the couch and watched Sam Darnold lay an absolute egg against the Rams in the playoffs. And what I hoped would be a new beginning of Vikings fans very quickly came to an abrupt end, and she watched them crash and burn, just like I have for many years.
Yeah. Everyone has to be initiated. Everyone remembers their first Vikings playoff egg being laid.
The day I brought her home from the hospital. All right. Big fan of the show, fellas. Thanks for having us on. We got one more with some off-season takes for you. Who flew all the way from Minnesota? One more thing.
Love
she
it.
flew here so we could watch this last game together.
Oh,
We thought it would be a little different.
what a lifelong memory. A lifelong memory you're gonna have. Yeah, Matt LaFleur spoiling the shutout.
Hoping we were going to have a good Vikings, Green Bay, like nighttime game. Anyway, my big things, like you guys were saying, I really think that we need a backup for JJ that's going to push the competition. We can't rely on that. I really hope we can retain B-Flow, but I doubt that. And if we don't have any draft success, we're going nowhere anyway. So those are my quick takes.
Yeah,
Speak
no,
to the
thank
draft. See you at the draft party because I'm
Sounds
flying
good.
in.
You guys are awesome.
Checking
Thank
in
you.
from the Pacific Northwest. Shout out to Petoskey's for anyone in Seattle that gathers at that Vikings bar. Let's keep rocking here, Dex. Who's next on Vent Line?
Yeah, let's. I think Phil is just leaving the stadium. Yo, Phil, you got us?
Hey, yeah, we on. We're
What's up,
from Nick
Phil?
Mullins, Mississippi, in
Let's go.
Love
Hattiesburg.
it.
Wow, Brett Favre country.
Preseason game. But anyway,
I think we're losing Phil. We gotta check
we'll
back
get
in
him
with
back
Phil.
in. That's all good.
Hattiesburg country. Let's go.
Love that. Favre too, right? Favre,
Oh, yeah.
Hattiesburg, Mullins.
That's-
Yep.
yeah,
Brian
right.
Dozier, even too, I believe.
Yeah,
in that club.
that's
I think
correct.
so. Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Roman from Iowa in the meantime. Hey, Roman, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How's it going? I love
Hey, Roman.
Fiery Judd today. Geez, coming out hot, man.
You know, it's just so disappointing to have a Vikings-Packers game, Week 18, right? And like the first caller said, you think it's going to be a night game maybe? It's going to be for the division title, Vikings-Packers, and it's this, and I have to watch Clayton Tune. So, yeah, Fiery Judd's very disappointed by this.
Yeah. I can't really hear you, Judd, but I'll take you for your word on that, and I'll play it back. Having troubles hearing some of you. But I got a parody for you from the Eye of the Tiger here. Some positivity coming from Roman from Iowa. It's the heart of the Vikings. There's work to be done this offseason. Drafting better players and self-scouting. Thor's internal drafting, audit reformulating the offense. Keeping Brian Flores. It's the heart of the Viking.
Wow, Roman.
The
Little flat
heart of
on
the
that high note.
Viking.
Oh, we got that. He's just kidding.
I had to get the last word in there. Come on. That was great.
Roman, your homework is, okay, Rocky 3, great reference. We need parody songs for all of Rocky 4 soundtrack. Get back to us after you've written the entire Rocky 4 soundtrack, and we'll get back to you. All right, let's go. By the way, real quick on the disgusting front. Okay, not to keep piling on. I love Max Brosmer, row the boat, Skyamago Gophers. Like, what are we doing on that? Where he first of all, he had like 2 outlets right to his left. Okay, after like 2.5 seconds, just get it out in the flat there. But then he panics, runs backwards, trips over his own offensive lineman's legs, and thinks like college, oh, my knee was down. So, and he's kind of signaling like down by contact. No, man, like you tripped over your own guy. Go after the football. I can't stop thinking about the week of the Seattle game. Whoever it was internally, this would be my number one thing if I am Mark and Ziggy Wilf. I want to know who was pumping the tires of Max Brosmer publicly. Were you doing it to sabotage someone else? Or did you actually think that he was going to be unleashed to the rest of the NFL? Because the gap between that level of propaganda before the Seattle game and what we've actually seen from Max Brosmer is one of the widest gaps you'll ever find with an NFL quarterback.
He was unleashed. He was.
Dude,
Unleashed on the Vikings,
like,
unfortunately.
It's not his fault. Like, he's an undrafted free agent
Agreed.
rookie who's being put in a terrible spot. But, like, my God.
O'Connell had, I think, the lengthiest in-game conversation with the quarterback that I've seen all season on the sideline, at least at home games, after that. Because he could have just stayed down.
Yeah.
Okay, you tripped, you're down, you're not going to make a play. Just stay down, they'll touch you, it's done. And he didn't know that.
And this is like, whether it's those conversations or at the beginning of the game, like the 5th play in, and J.J. McCarthy, who's coming off of like the 4th or 5th different pausing of his career due to injury, gets all fired up, running out of bounds to the right, lays his shoulder into a Packers defender. He's all fired up. Here we go. It's like, all right, you've already suffered a bunch of injuries that have knocked you out for games. And like in the first 5 minutes, you're going to dip your shoulder and try to stick it to someone, maybe jam your shoulder, whatever it is. And then he gets up in the guy's face. And I love the fire, the passion, awesome. But take a deep breath, man. Stop putting your shoulder into defensive players. This isn't college. And just go back. Don't waste your energy taunting him in that moment. There's definitely time to rev up the energy machine. It's great. Like when you score a game-winning touchdown against the Bears, I guess, on Monday Night Football. But just, dude, go back to the huddle. And they kept showing Kevin O'Connell throughout the next like 2 or 3 minutes on the sidelines, just looking absolutely disgusted. And I'm literally managing a quarterback daycare around here. I got one guy that doesn't know the rules, another guy that like just can't stop getting hurt. And it's it's for all of those reasons, whether it will be the right decision or not, that I just don't think he's going to want to do this again. I think he's going to want an actual experienced veteran guy, not even like because it's the right thing from an on-field playing perspective, but he just wants to not have to manage a quarterback daycare. He wants to be able to have adult quarterback conversations at a high level.
He also badly, I think, wants to go back to what he does. The concessions that he made for McCarthy, in my opinion, were concessions. They were not a change. Like, as much as Dex wants, 22 and the 13 and the heavier packages. I saw 22 a couple times. But as much as you might want those, he does not want to do those. He wants to go back to what he runs. And the reality is, we're now picking from a crop of guys that can do that consistently. One example, Kyler Murray, big arm, but can he run those? Like there's we're going to get into what is a very interesting pot of guys, and this is why I think that they might go make a significant move, because you can't just go get a new veteran QB. For instance, Aaron Rodgers cannot do what O'Connell wants to do. He can't. He's past that point.
Yeah, we should get into some of the reporting here now that we're 30 minutes in, and we'll definitely be getting to a lot more Vikings fans as well. But Kevin Seifert had a great piece of reporting on why the Aaron Rodgers thing didn't wind up happening. And maybe it wound up being for the best because it might have been a train wreck. Who knows? I think they'd probably just have one or two more wins and be in the playoffs as a team that could maybe be hosting a playoff game. Before we do any of that, real quick here, North American Banking Company is powering all season long Vikings Vent Line, and we appreciate their partnership here, keeping this a 365-day-a-year show on Purple Daily. And it's now the official bank of the O-Line Committee as well. And I can tell you from experience working with North American Banking Company, friendly, knowledgeable people who value personal relationships and cutting-edge online tools valuing the safety and security of your accounts. So if you're looking for a better banking experience, go no further than the Twin Cities-based North American Banking Company, nabankco.com/Mackey, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Judd, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, also on board with us this season.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And why? Because you know what? It's freezing cold out. The snow comes and goes. The cold is here to stay, certainly probably for the next few months. And that's where MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air comes in, because they are going to make sure that your furnace is going at full strength. You know what? You do not want a backup furnace. You do not want a furnace that you cannot rely on. You want a furnace that is running at peak efficiency, and MSP is going to guarantee that that is the case. They're also your local Carrier dealer. MSP and Carrier are a winning combination. So if you have any problems with your furnace, or heck, if you think, you know what, a tune-up might be a good idea, I'm going to tell you right now, it probably would be. 651-615-4292. Call MSP.com. Call MSP.com.
If you're a big game hunted quarterback that was just acquired by the Vikings and you need a moving company, Dex, who should Joe Burrow contact?
2 men in a truck. Don't let the linemen do it, okay? I mean, you got like dinosaur teeth and fossils for Christmas, I saw.
Crazy, yeah.
So if that's the case and you need to move some of those, make sure the experts are doing that at 2 men in a truck. They'll safely package everything, get it into that truck, get it out of that house. 2 Men in a Truck made my move happen. They made Phil's move happen as well. I've moved a ton over the last few years, and it's one of the most stressful things you can do. And having a legit moving company, not some weird situation where you're trying to figure out family members or friends that can help you out, and instead just let the experts handle it. Go to 2meninatruck.com and tell them that Purple Daily sent you.
We will get to a couple really interesting reports about the Vikings quarterback situation going into the offseason from Seifert and from The Athletic here in a second. But who's next on Vent Line, Dex?
Yeah, let's go to Jay. Hey, Jay, what's up, man? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes,
we got you, Jay.
I don't know why I zoomed in. I have headphones. I have one word of the season, and unfortunately, I think it's embarrassing. I think the Vikings QB process over the summer was just embarrassing the way they handled it. I think KOC's adjustments have been embarrassing throughout the season. Expecting a 22-year-old to throw the ball 35 times a game when he was predominantly in a run-first offense is a little embarrassing. I think the cringy attitude of Week 18 against Packers backups I think was a little embarrassing. That was a great stiff arm, though. Like, Kirk Cousins is not doing that. But after you go out of bounds, just take the first down and move on. I think there is some parallels. I'm a Wolves fan. I have a Wolf sweater on right now.
Oh, wow.
But I think
great.
the problem with the Wolves and the Vikings is their head guy. We don't have a smart point guard on the Wolves. I mean, we don't really have any point guard, but for the Vikings, like JJ McCarthy situationally, he keeps getting hurt and he's trying to truck dudes and things like that. So I think the Wolves and the Vikings are making that sort of assessment of they want a blue collar guy who's just keeps his head down. Sam Darnold just makes plays, and just because how polarizing that kind of quarterback play is with JJ being so fiery. So that's kind of it. But I'm proud of Harrison Smith and CJ Ham, though. So
Yeah.
That's all I have
Cool
to say.
send off for those guys. Jay, thanks for jumping on. It's like a vintage Devil Rays hat there, too. Some good stuff there from Jay's wardrobe. Who's next on Vent Line here, Dex?
Yeah, let's go to Kelvin. Kelvin, what's up, man? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Got
we can.
you, yeah.
All right. Well, long time listener, first time caller. I appreciate you guys for having me on. I know a lot of Vikings fans might be mad at me with this take, but I think firing Kwesi will be a big mistake by the Wilfs. And my reason is for everything that Kwesi has missed on, a lot of things that he's missed on, us as Viking nations, seem like the things that we complain about, he has adjusted. He hasn't been stubborn. Like, we hated Ed Ingram. He was able to trade Ed Ingram and get us draft capital and get Jordan Mason out of that. He's missed on a lot of picks, but you know who else has missed on a lot of picks? Howie Roseman, right? Like, if I run down the first round picks that he had from 2010 to 2020, is people like Andre Dillard, Danny Watkins, Marcus Smith. You know, like, who are these guys, right? Like, they took Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson. And, you know, we were all hyped last year. We said we needed interior offensive line, interior defensive line. What did Kwesi try to do? He went out and he opened up the wallet and he bought those guys in. So I just think we should, you know, be a little bit more patient with the general manager. Like, a lot of us want to be patient with Kevin O'Connell. I think he should get the same grace. So, you know, that's just my take. And again, I think, you know, it wasn't all negative. You know, Jetta's got his 1K, so I'm definitely excited for him getting that. And yeah, man, when we get there, it's going to be we're going to deserve it more than any other franchise, probably in pro sports. But I know we're going to get there soon, man. Thank you, guys.
Kelvin, thanks for jumping on here. I do take issue with his premise about let's drill down on it would be a mistake if the Vikings moved on from Kwesi and then using Howie Roseman's bad draft, and he had a lot of whiffs for a certain period until they caught fire in the draft for like 4 years and built Super Bowl contenders. But that's kind of like saying, well, hey, listen, like, every quarterback has some bad throws. I mean, like, JJ McCarthy has some bad throws and Josh Allen has some bad throws. Like, every quarterback has some bad throws. Well, yeah, but Josh Allen also has an MVP resume on top of the bad throws, and Patrick Mahomes on top of the bad throws. Howie Roseman has a Hall of Fame track record for certain chunks as a personnel guy, drafting, accumulating via trade, free agency, etc. So I do think it would be incorrect to say that Kwesi is the singular problem with why the Vikings did not make the playoffs this year. But I don't think it's fair to say that he's shown enough to where you'd label it a mistake if you got rid of him. Like, is the gap between... You could argue that you could go from Kwesi to a better general manager who catches fire in the draft for the next 4 or 5 years is the best thing that you could do to build this franchise back up. I just don't think, like, what are you losing if you get rid of Kwesi, I guess? That would be my question back.
So the thing, too, and it's not surprising, the Vikings have never been really transparent about how this all works, too. But I will say this. It appears Kwesi outsources decisions to a lot of people in the building, and I don't like that. I think it's a mistake. It's how you end up getting, as Thor said, he's right, Ty Felton in the third round, right? It's like Keenan McCardell slams the table. I want Ty Felton. Okay, but he's a 5th round pick. And so, look, do I think that Kwesi goes in with his draft board and is like, everyone get out, time for me to draft? No, but I do think that there's a problem that we have seen with a lot of missed draft picks because you've got guys like Ryan Grigson, because you've got too many people telling you what to do. At the end of the day, you need somebody who can make a decision by themselves with input, but not the type that he literally has, like, it feels like, and again, they're not transparent, a shadow GM. Well, if that's Gregson, we've talked about this before. I think that's a major problem. So the Vikings took a chance here. The Vikings took a chance on an outside the box hire. So far, we've gone through 2022, 23, 24, and 25 drafts. There are way too many whiffs, in my opinion, and then you have to chase your tail in free agency. So I think what we do have is we have a very concrete blueprint of what's gone wrong here. It needs to be fixed. And unfortunately, with the way things are going there, it feels to me like the Vikings are getting further and further away from contention with the status quo. And you do not have 10 years to say, you know what, dude, you're going to develop someday. You're going to be great. So I just totally disagree. And quite frankly, if they bring McCarthy back in 26 and we go through anything like this again, guess whose job is in jeopardy at that point? Kevin O'Connell's.
Just a couple comments off the Howie Roseman thing here from Chessmaster1115 in the Purple Daily YouTube comment section. It took Roseman 7 years to get to a Super Bowl. And Matthew said, Phil's an idiot. He was talking about Howie's first few years. No, like we get that. But we already know how the Howie Roseman general manager timeline panned out. Like, he's one of the best. And maybe it took him a few years to get started, but he's become one of the top 2 or 3 general managers of the last 20 years in the NFL. Like, it's a bad comparison. You if you're trying to defend Kwesi, I need to see some evidence, and you can't use well, hey, Howie Roseman didn't hit on draft after draft. It took him a few years. Yeah, but there's a lot of other GMs that it took them a few years, then they got fired and because they weren't good at their job on that level. So I'm gonna need more concrete evidence that moving on from Kwesi is a mistake because he's about to click like Howie Roseman did, other than both of them didn't hit on drafts for the first 4 or 5 years. That's not enough evidence for me. I'm sorry. It's not
correct. And if you want me to absolve him, then you need to tell me exactly how your process is run. Otherwise, I'm going to assume my assumption is correct. It was an outside the box hire. Do I think that there is room for a guy like Kwesi in a front office? Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. Do I think that person should run your franchise as the GM with his skill set? I'm not so sure about that. I would say no.
From Hallie Holy Smoker Barbecue, shout out, I guess. Did Howie draft Justin Jefferson or Jalen? It's Jalen Reagor.
Reagor, yeah.
Reagor.
Yeah.
Well, Rick Spielman actually was the beneficiary of that mistake by the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2020. But what's happening here is if you're boiling it down to one draft pick, it's easy to play a game of gotcha with any front office in the NFL. That's why you do need sample size. You need 4 or 5 different drafts. You need 30, 40, 50 players worth to build up. Because in any one moment, you're playing percentages. You're playing odds. None of these players, save for a few of them in each draft that are just such physical freaks with the right mentality, blended with the right organization, maybe those are 90% lottery tickets. But a lot of first-round picks, you're making a decision between a 40% lottery ticket and a 60% or a 75% lottery ticket. And the smaller the sample size, the more variance there is to be wrong, maybe even in a couple drafts. But if we're stacking the resumes of Kwesi in the draft and even Ryan Grigson as the number 1 traditional football guy in this front office with the Vikings and going back to his track record with the Colts, it's a lot of bad. It's a lot of bad in Indianapolis with Grigson and a lot of bad in Minnesota with Kwesi and Grigson in the draft. Is there some other underlying piece of evidence that says, no, they actually are practicing very sound process and you just need to be a little bit more patient for the drafts to start crushing? All right, I'm open to that conversation, but right now it doesn't exist. So that it's a warranted question. And the Wilfs are probably asking the same questions this week inside that practice facility, Judd, right?
Yes. And look, it's sports and comparisons are fun, right? But at some point in time, you have to look at what your team is doing well and not well. And I don't care, if like last year, we could have said Kevin O'Connell is the next genius. And he was considered that, right? But now we have more evidence. And I think the same is true about Kwesi. Like, that's the thing. At some point in time, let's stop with the comparisons and see what the person is really doing. And that's where I feel like we fall back on, well, just take more time. Well, if your process is screwed up, I don't care who I compare you to. Your problem is you've got issues. And this franchise right now, like, again, go back to last March. And as excited as we got, they were chasing their own tail because they didn't have draft picks. And they didn't develop them. Any way you cut it up, it's a problem.
And your point about like Kevin O'Connell being regarded by us and a lot of other people as a quarterback genius and offensive mastermind before this season, and then new evidence comes in. It's possible that the new evidence doesn't wipe out all of the good that he did the first 3 years. It's possible that it just means, okay, there's a very particular type of quarterback that he needs to work with. They need to speak the language at a veteran level. They need to understand what they're looking at. It has more prerequisites to it than maybe we thought, and maybe even the Vikings thought. And if that's the case, all right, we're sticking with Kevin O'Connell. I don't think there's any shot that dude gets fired on Black Monday, tomorrow, or this week. Okay, then everybody involved in the decision-making needs to make sure that you're sticking with him. Who does he want to work with? And it feels like that there was some dissonance there back in February and March, that maybe he wanted to work with Aaron Rodgers. And the front office decided that Aaron Rodgers wasn't the guy. That maybe he wanted to work with Daniel Jones, but the front office, no, we're not. There's a lot to be untangled here in the next week or two in this autopsy here. Dex, who's next on Vikings Vent Line?
Yeah, let's go to Justin. Hey, Justin, what's up, man? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
Second-time caller. Younger brother's first Packers game.
Nice.
Right on.
Mom's first Packers game. Awesome game to go to. Happy with Jefferson getting 1,000 yards. Can I get a shout-out to John, Grace, awesome co-worker, and awesome Vikings fans. See you guys.
Are we on the light rail or the bus right now?
Light rail. I was waiting for you guys to get me on the stadium.
Well, thanks for jumping in.
And I won tickets this with the late Christmas present. I won it in a Vikings group. 3 free tickets. Can't really complain about being the Packers.
Yes, and you saw, thank you, Justin, checking in on the light rail, a dominant performance against a division rival today. Almost a shutout. Let's go. Should we get Skoldock in here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Our guy Skoldock. What's going on, dude?
What's up, guys? Happy offseason. Lots of speculation ahead of us. I just wanted to speculate or clear up some speculation I saw on Twitter, because there was some confusion that this is a new injury for JJ McCarthy and that fractured hand, like he had healed it, was ready to come back, and then and that's just absolutely not true. You guys did a good job of talking about that to open up the show. I don't even think he worsened it. I just think that it's a really painful injury, and for reasons that you discussed, cortisone injection or Toradol or even lidocaine injection is not really applicable for the quarterback's throwing hand, because that's going to create issues as well. So it's just a no-win situation, and for all the reasons that we talked about all week long, we probably shouldn't play the kid, because it's really just going to set him up for negative storylines, and there's really no the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as they say, and that just kind of bore itself out. So tough situation for the kid. There's a lot of question marks going into next season, and we're going to tune in every day to see what you guys have to lead us to the offseason. And what the first one is January 5, right? Is that tomorrow? We're doing the first offseason run through.
The first Blueprint episode is going to be on Friday. We're going to do it on Friday at Mystic Lake at the Hop House, but we have a bajillion other conversations to sort of lay the groundwork this week. I feel like there's a lot to be kind of parsed apart before even we as a show decide, all right, let's now let's go forward and create an offseason blueprint here. But yeah, it all starts this week.
Well, we will be there. Best of luck to you guys this offseason, and have fun up there in Minnesota. Have a great offseason. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Skoldock, thank you, dude. Appreciate that. Since we've alluded to it a couple times here, I want to give you the Kevin Seifert main points from his ESPN.com reporting that came out this weekend. So basically, like if I could sum it up, and Judd, jump in here. This is your former beat writing partner from the Star Tribune. And I know you guys you probably sat with him in the press box today. So if you've got additional detail here, but the Vikings essentially wanted a more competitive quarterback room in 2026 that didn't put everything on J.J. McCarthy in the way that it did, and they kind of screwed it up. That, to me, that was a big part of this reporting. That on Daniel Jones, quote from Seifert's article, the Vikings misread Daniel Jones' level of interest in their scheme and culture. He liked the organization and the people in it, but business was business. And I think they thought it was a done deal before it was a done deal. Oh, he's been here for 5 or 6 weeks. He likes it here.
Yep.
You know, no one's going to give him an outright starting job. It wasn't really about the money as much, because it sounds like the Vikings made him a pretty similar offer, like the $15 million or whatever that the Colts offered him.
Yep.
But the Colts, it sounds like, if I'm reading between the lines correctly, said, hey, our guy here, Anthony Richardson, is pretty beatable in a training camp battle. So why don't you come on in here and make that happen?
My read on the entire thing with Jones was the Vikings got cocky and thought, oh, he's staying here. He signed here, practice squad. We worked with him. And then I felt like what Seifert was alluding to was they didn't see it through completely. And so they just assumed, which was really dumb, because the Colts were like, we got a guy that can't hit the broadside of a barn. And he's like, oh, that's a good point. And so, yes, I would say from that story, Darnold was not going to be, in their opinion, an option, but they thought that they had Jones signed, sealed, and delivered. Unfortunately, he was none of those things, and he left.
On Aaron Rodgers, this is what Seifert wrote about that sort of 1 month and a half weird flirtation. There were multiple reasons why the Vikings passed on Rodgers, sources said, but one of them was the front office's internal assessment that at age 41, Aaron Rodgers was no longer likely to play at a Super Bowl level. Making the playoffs with Rodgers but not winning the Super Bowl wasn't an equitable trade-off for delaying J.J. McCarthy's ascension, they concluded. Another reason was the off-schedule nature of Rodgers' playing style, at times assigning routes to receivers at the line of scrimmage by using hand signals or other means. McCarthy wouldn't benefit from watching an offense that he would not be asked to run in future years, which is kind of, I mean, like when Brett Favre came in here 16 years ago, here's the kick-ass offense. Yeah, like I'll run that kind of, but I'm also going to do what I want at the line of scrimmage and tell receivers to do what I think based on my 20 years of reading defenses. Correct. And it would just be a totally different thing that they wouldn't ask McCarthy to do. But what I find interesting about this part of the reporting is the front office's internal assessment that Rodgers was no longer likely to play at a Super Bowl level. I take that to mean that Kevin O'Connell may have believed differently. Is that too much of a leap, or we just don't know?
It's convoluted. I mean, yeah, I think that's what's being alluded to there. But the interesting thing about it is Rodgers would have won a few more games, but I actually think, and 6 months ago, I never would have speculated about this. I actually think, though, if you look at how Rodgers does things, like the front office sort of had O'Connell's best interest in mind, because I think he would have melted down. Like I don't think he is any more willing to have a quarterback go to the line of scrimmage and be like, what you called in is cute. Now here's what we're going to run. And so I just don't know. And O'Connell likes to get the ball down the field. And we've gone through those stats that Aaron's at a point now, 40 plus years old, where it doesn't work as well. So I actually think the Rodgers thing at the end of the day would be a disaster unless O'Connell adjusted and said, okay, cool. You do you. So could they have won a game or two more? Yeah. But would they have been a Super Bowl contender? I think the answer to that question is no. So again, this is where I'll go back to what I said was I think we are talking about a very small list of potential quarterbacks who can start for this team next season if it's not McCarthy.
And see, where I differ in the evaluation of this team is I know the defense early on, there was a couple games that were getting gashed on the ground, but at the end of the day, the defense is a top 5 defense. And the like today's numbers are going to help the defense, even though they're playing backups. But even heading into today, they had emerged into the top 5 yards per play allowed. The takeaways were down a little bit from last year, but this defense, especially since about week 10 or week 11, has been cooking. And it's against some good offenses in there, too. That Seattle offense, the Dallas offense, Detroit, those teams were fighting for playoff spots when this defense came in and made life hard on them. I think with a higher level of quarterback play and this defense makes them closer to Super Bowl contenders. It wouldn't be about like getting top 5 quarterback play out of Rodgers. It would be you're going into the playoffs with one of the 5 best defenses in the league, which Pittsburgh does not have, by the way. Pittsburgh, even though if they win tonight and beat the Ravens, like they're not going in. You wouldn't be able to use Pittsburgh being a one and done as a referendum on whether Rodgers could ride a team to the Super Bowl because their defense isn't the Vikings defense. The main question is, what level of quarterback play would the Vikings have needed with this defense to be a Super Bowl contender? And would Aaron Rodgers or Daniel Jones have risen above that bar?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to the potential tumult that would have occurred with O'Connell. With O'Connell bristling at the fact that Aaron for sure would have tried to change plays.
But there was tumult this year in different ways, and they still won 9 games with all the tumult at quarterback.
But my point is, we found out, like, this is what McCarthy or not, what we found out was O'Connell wants to run one system, and that's it. And he's only changing it when he's absolutely forced to because the poor kid can't play. So I keep going back to this, and this is my worst fear, but I think it becomes a discussion. I keep going back to, do they find a way, and contractually it might be tough, do they find a way to get Kirk Cousins back? That's what I keep going back to as the worst case. Because my best case is you know what? Burrow does get traded, and let's say, and I think that you or Dex brought this up 2 weeks ago. Burrow gets traded to the Rams, okay? Because the Rams got draft picks up the wazoo. And then it's like, okay, Stafford's good. He wants to play another year or so, right? Can you get Stafford? Like, that's my dream. But I think we have to accept the fact that Kirk Cousins, he can run the offense. He's 2 years. He's old, but he's 2 years now off an Achilles. You know what you're going to get. He is not going to go against O'Connell's wishes. You know,
but here's the thing: the only way that happens, like in terms of, because you're $50 million over the salary cap right now, you have work to do to get below. If you traded for him, you wouldn't have to give up that much draft capital. It'd probably be like a 6th-round pick, but you'd have to take on like $30-some million base salary. It would have to be them releasing him, which is likely because his cap hit is so untenable.
Yep.
But if it's an open market free agent Kirk Cousins,
correct,
he would need to know, I think, that he has a better than 50% shot to be the starting quarterback going into 2026.
I think
he's not going to sign to be the backup to McCarthy. You'd have to tell him, you're the starter.
I think you're
the mentor, and McCarthy, and for like $5 or $10 million bucks, just like you were going to do with Rodgers maybe last year.
The comments are killing me, ladies and gentlemen. I hate this idea. I'm just telling you, brace yourself. Like, this is the thing. Starting tomorrow, when your alarm goes off and you head to Quick Trip, you need to accept this, ladies and gents. You're not going to like all of the answers to the test. Like this is going to get, I think it's going to get crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm not in any way saying I want Kirk back, but what I'm saying is there is a very small handful of guys that can plug and play here.
Matt Willers says Purple Daily has as much credibility as the Twins front office at this point.
We've gotten
how would you gauge our credibility right now?
We've gotten this before. We have done this same exact type of show and been ridiculed and mocked and told, these are all stupid ideas, and then they happen.
Yeah,
so
of course. Yeah,
just be very careful.
Circle back.
Brace yourself. Buckle up. Buckle up.
Safe T-Bob says Judd needs to take some PTO. Just take a day.
You know what? I can, but it's not going to stop the circus from coming to town, Bobby.
Sorry, Dex. You go ahead and jump in on.
I was just going to say, if they bring back Kirk Cousins, then Kevin O'Connell's getting fired. Like, you're mailing it in 2026. If they bring back Kirk, they're not going to accomplish anything else. They're not going to accomplish more than 9 wins. They will be right around the same thing they are right now, and everyone gets fired. And if Kevin O'Connell is stubborn enough to want that, then all right, man. I hope you enjoyed your 5 seasons here in purple and go somewhere else afterwards. Because if that happens, everyone gets blown out after the season. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, the Cousins is an interesting barometer for this hypothetical that I posed. Like, because Rodgers is so triggering. Not that Cousins is any less triggering. He's just triggering in a different way, maybe. But Cousins, and I haven't looked up the stats today, Atlanta did finish off the Saints, giving the Panthers the NFC South Division title.
I'm glad.
So the Panthers are in. By the way, you have a 3-way tie at 8-9. The Falcons won like 5 consecutive games with Kirk leading the way. So Kirk, it was a little bit of a rough. I didn't watch much of the game. I had it on a second TV, but he got sacked a bunch, 5.5 yards per attempt. There was a pick in there. Whatever. It wasn't like his best performance. But on the season, old Kirky boy, 63% completions, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, managing the game, veteran. Do they win another game or two with that type of quarterback consistently playing 17 games? I'm with you, Judd. Like, I'm not saying that it is the first thing I would jump to do in the offseason, but so we're going to, for people that are new maybe to reckless speculation season here on Purple Daily. All right.
Reckless speculation.
There's always 2 different, and we should be clear every time we're venturing down these paths. There's options of things that could be done, maybe in line with what we think the Vikings might do. And then there's our opinions on what we would do or what we think are the best ideas. And I think a lot of people kind of blur those things together. Like, these guys are advocating for Kirk Cousins to come back and be the Vikings starting quarterback. Well, if we could dig deeper on that for a second, I would say if you're looking for a credible quarterback to come in that fits with Kevin O'Connell's system and scheme and what he wants to do, Kirk is very high on that list. If I'm looking back at the reasons why that dude drove me nuts as the starting quarterback of this team for years and years, a lot of it had to do with the amount of money that he made. He was kind of a beta personality. He was a I don't call the timeouts. That's not my thing. The head coach wants called. It's like, dude, you're one of the highest paid players in the NFL. You were brought here as a mercenary, a highly paid mercenary to push this team over the top, and he didn't. And then, of course, to exacerbate things, like they had some bad drafts and it kind of spiraled from there. But, like, if you're talking about a guy that checks a lot of Kevin O'Connell boxes, who's been playing at a fairly decent level with Atlanta, who makes a fraction of what he made the first time around, it's a conversation. It's a conversation.
Yes. And plus, where I agree with you, Phil, is I don't think O'Connell can take this again. So, like, okay, let's go into the bin of quarterbacks that he would want. Joe Burrow for sure. Good luck.
Of course, but like
no, but I'm saying the bin. The bin is Burrow, Stafford. But then when you start to go through that list, we're already throwing out names of guys who would not fit his system. And the point is, it's a finite list of guys that will drive the ball down the field consistently, of guys that will do exactly what they're told. Because, again, that's something I didn't really think about until this season. He wants things done exactly as he wants them done. It's the same as Childress was. Yeah. So when we're going down that list, who can accomplish that, who you might get?
Yeah.
And so Kirk Cousins can do that. I don't want Kirk Cousins back. My God, there's no – and look, I think Dex ultimately might be right. But at the end of the day, if Kevin O'Connell is sitting at his desk on a night in I don't know, March – and the choices are Joe Burrow, and we can get Kirk to compete. And yes, we're going to tell Kirk privately, you're probably going to win the job. Do I think that O'Connell is going to say, well, if I do this, I'm being fired? No. I think he's going to say, if I bring McCarthy back with no competition, I'm being fired.
Correct.
So,
yeah, and that's to Dex's point, where it's like,
that's the difference.
If it's Kevin O'Connell in a room, he thinks a guy like Kirk Cousins would elevate that quarterback room and give you a much better chance to win games with a good defense. And you're projecting and saying, Dex, that's great that Kevin thinks that. I'm looking into my football crystal ball and saying that it would end in a train wreck. For someone that just commented that because Michael Penix has a torn ACL, again, another injury, that they can't afford to let Cousins leave. Well, his cap hit for 2026 is almost $60 million and takes up about 19% of the Falcons' cap. So they either, I guess he could play on that. I think the Falcons are over the cap or pressed up against it. But I think this is a chance for them if they cut him or trade him to save like $22 million and get a cheaper, maybe younger backup quarterback that can sit there with Michael Penix. So
there's also a very good chance that within the next week or so, Thor's favorite exec, terrible Terry Fontenot, the GM, and Raheem Morris are both gone. So that means the guys that brought in Kirk Cousins are gone. So like this is not going to be the current administration most likely. There's just a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts that we have to be willing to accept right now. Might not be fun. You might not like them, but they're going to happen.
Standard Heating and Air Conditioning is going to power our hottest takes tomorrow live at 9 a.m. Central Time. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, go to standardheating.com. You can get on their smart club too. This will give you priority booking. It'll give you a discount on repairs. I'm part of their smart club. And I got the smart thermostats on my to-do list. And when I say it's on my to-do list, I mean the experts, my guy Cameron, will install that smart thermostat because I have no idea how to do it. They know how to do it, and they make sure my HVAC system is working appropriately and effectively. So go to Standard Heating to get your appointment scheduled today. Yes, they power our hottest takes. Appreciate Standard Heating and all the Purple Daily audience, too, that has supported them. Go support Standard Heating. Make sure your HVAC systems are working effectively and appropriately.
Also, shout out to the Canopy Group, Judd, here.
Absolutely. An in-state-based independent insurance company that, guess what, has your best interest in mind. Much like that good sports executive who's constantly on the lookout for the best talent available, the Canopy Group is going to do the same for you when it comes to getting the best insurance coverage at the best price. What they do is they work with 16 groups of top-tier companies to make sure that you have the best insurance roster possible for auto, home, health, and business. And then at renewal time, you are going to hear from them because they're not just going to leave that roster status quo. They're going to help make sure that it is framed in the best way possible. Give them a call, 1-800-967-3389, or check out their website, thecanopygroup.com. That's thecanopygroup.com for your insurance.
And Menards is your one-stop shop for everything for your car, and that includes power service diesel fuel supplements.
Football.
That's right. Power up your diesel with Power Service Diesel Fuel Supplement and cetane boost. It prevents fuel gelling, cleans and lubricates your system, and adds cetane for better combustion and more power.
Football.
Diesel Fuel Supplement and cetane boost. At Menards, stock up because performance matters on the road and beyond. All right, Dex, who do you got next for us on Vent Line, Purple Daily YouTube channel?
Yeah, I don't think we've heard from him this season. Bernard, what's going on, man?
Bernard.
Hey guys. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've gotten on with you. A couple of years, actually. Good to get on with you again.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not a lot to take from this game, but still a couple of points. Once I stopped caring about the game, it was kind of hilarious because of the offensive ineptitude. And I've been a Vikings fan since 2006. So when Harrison Smith left the game, I actually got a little bit emotional because he's been kind of on the team since I started watching, almost. That was a cool moment. And regarding McCarthy, I think I personally would just still give it one more year, even though I can see all your points with, obviously the season wasn't optimal and should have gone better, but I think there's still a lot to develop, and I think I would also give O'Connell one more year to get the best out of him, and if it doesn't work next year, everyone's getting fired anyway. Yeah, you could do it 1 year earlier if you're sure about it, but I just think there's still something left to get out of it. And I wanted to say one thing because you, Mackie, you said it, I think this week about Rodgers maybe making us a contender. I don't know. I'm probably in the minority on this, but I'm 37 now, so almost around halfway my life now. I think I'd rather not win a Super Bowl my entire life than win one with Aaron Rodgers.
Wow.
I just don't want that guy on this team. I don't like him. I don't want him.
That's an interesting hypothetical where if I were to say to you, okay, Bernard or anyone consuming this podcast, the Vikings are going to win. They're going to win a Super Bowl. Promise you they're going to win a Super Bowl next year. Can you believe it? Oh, my gosh. Oh, there's a catch. It's Aaron Rodgers, and it's the only Super Bowl you're going to win as a fan your entire life.
I know it's tough, But I mean, we had this thought experiment at the start of the season, before the season, when it seemed like they might sign him, and I just couldn't get myself to get on board with it, even if someone guaranteed me a Super Bowl. I don't know.
I love the take from Bernard, man.
He just rubs me the wrong way. So okay, that sounds weird. You know what I mean?
I got you.
We got you. Yeah. I didn't even think that way until you said it.
Yeah, Bernard, thanks for checking in, man, from overseas. One of our longtime Vent Line loyalists here. I mean, there were some Favre discussions like that back in 2009 too. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I did like Favre more personally, but if you're gonna like if you say, okay, Lombardi Trophy or you will die without one, I think I'm just gonna take the quarterback and say, okay, cool.
Yeah. Also, as we sit here and try to figure out, like, is McCarthy the long-term franchise quarterback? You got to find a franchise quarterback. There would be something fitting about this franchise, which for 30 years has always gravitated toward the random bridge guy, just hopping from veteran to veteran. And we could name 12 of those guys here right now. That, like, that's the way it's supposed to happen. That, if the Vikings are going to win a Super Bowl, they're destined to do it with a random one-off, whoever that may be. Matthew Stafford at the twilight of his career, or an Aaron Rodgers.
We're talking about the guy. We're discussing a guy from the Packers, right? Like Favre, who you once hated. Like, but that's the thing is, I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, but you'd also be able to hold that over everyone's head. That hey, you had these guys combined. You had Favre for 20 years, and you had Rodgers for 15 years, whatever the math was, 15 and 15. Yeah. And the Vikings have as many banners with Rodgers as the Packers did. There's something kind of hilariously trolly about Rodgers winning a Super Bowl in purple.
There's definitely a section of Vikings fans that align with Bernard, like totally. Like
Sure.
there is a huge crowd. I would trade both of you for a Vikings Super Bowl. So of course I will take Aaron Rodgers being the guy that would do it. So
I always said if Favre had won it in 2009, I'm retiring his number.
Oh, statue. He'd have a statue outside U.S. Bank Stadium, right?
And I do it gladly.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the Vent Lines here, Dex. Purple Daily YouTube channel.
Let's go to Jimbo. Hey, Jimbo, what's going on, man?
Hi, fellas. Good to be with you. First-time caller. I live in Wabasha, Minnesota, but I'm calling you from Tucson because I'm 79 years old and I can't stand the cold. I've been a Vikings fan since 1961. I've seen it all, but this is my take. I think the entire Viking organization is dysfunctional. The organization is led by three principals: the Wilfs, the owners, KOC, and Kwesi, as far as I know, and they have a lot of subparts to that. And I think Mackey and Judd illustrate the dysfunction in the organization of building a competitive team, not necessarily a Super Bowl team, versus obtaining a generational quarterback. And this dysfunction this year embarrassed the Vikings greatly and sabotaged and embarrassed three quarterbacks, particularly these two young men. I mean, JJ and Roseman, my heart goes out to them. They were thrown into the fire, ill-prepared, with undercutting language from the coaches, with the scowls and the stink face of KOC, and I was just upset for them. Generally speaking, I think quarterbacks win the Super Bowl, not coaches, not anything else. Defense helps, running helps, blah, blah, blah. But you can witness the Patriots and Belichick and how that quarterback carried that team. I realize it's the odd quarterback late in his life, as you were just talking about, that may take your team to a one-and-done Super Bowl win. But my point is this. I hope that the Vikings organization, Wilfs, KOC, and Kwesi, get in a room and sit down. And they determine what is the goal? What is the status? What are we shooting for? Competitive or generational? If it's competitive, that's what we've been for the last 20 years. We've gone through, I think Green Bay went through 18 or 3 quarterbacks over the last 33 years. We've gone through 18. If it's generational, fine. But then I would say this year was perhaps a try at a generational quarterback, and they fumbled it 100%. The blueprint for a generational quarterback, I would argue, is Green Bay. Green Bay, over 33 years, has had 3 quarterbacks. And they sat the last 2 quarterbacks down for several years and gave them time to mature. If you think a 22-year-old kid out of Michigan they played great defense and they ran the ball and he threw the ball a little bit now and then, is going to come in and lead this team. And we sent the other quarterback to quarterback hell with his throwing him out there and getting him killed. And then we put in poor Max Roseman. So the principles of the Vikings organization, and it's illustrated by the debate that I've heard. I watch all the time now. I'm retired. It's the debate between Mackey and Judd. Are we going to be competitive? All right. No Super Bowl guys. I'll be dead. But we'll be competitive. Or are we going generational? And if we're going generational, for God's sakes, then do it something like the Green Bay model and have a decent quarterback. And McCarthy should have had his body sat down this year behind a decent quarterback. I'll call him a competitive quarterback, not a Super Bowl quarterback, but a competitive quarterback, and see if indeed our bet on JJ turns out to be true, that he's generational. I realize the generational quarterbacks are 1 in a zillion, but we have to tell, and my closing point is, Vikes, once you've decided that, why don't you share that with your fans who live, breathe, and die by your organization? Let us know where you stand. Let us know your plans. Let us not speculate. Some will be upset with your plans, but boy, I would like to know, what are your plans going forward? So please, this offseason, get together principles of the organization. And the first step is to get your organization organized. Get it all on the same page. And by golly, if 1 or 2 of the 3 can't be on the same page, goodbye. I don't care if KOC has a pleasant personality to the press and can keep a good room, but I'm sick of his stink eye. I'm sick of the way he treated these 2 young quarterbacks. And if he's not a young quarterback guy, and if we're going generational, get rid of him and get somebody that can tolerate a generational outlook for the organization. If we're competitive, KOC's probably our guy. And then he won't give stink eye to guys because he'll pass the ball all the time. So I've taken a lot of time. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, hang on, Jim. Don't go anywhere. We're going to put you in the green room here, but we have some instructions for you, because you might not get a Viking Super Bowl for another year here, but you are going to get some Crybaby Craig's hot sauce for our vent of the show here. Jim down in Tucson, Arizona.
Hey, Jim. So, Jim, I know you're still listening. You're still hanging out in the green room. Email me your address in Scottsdale, and we'll send you some hot sauce.
Tucson.
Sorry.
Very different than Scottsdale.
It's funny because I've literally only been to Arizona once, and it's Tucson, and I screwed that up. I don't know how I did that. Anywho, crybabycraigs.com, PD10 for 10% off. But, Jim, we're going to hook you up with a bunch of hot sauce from our friends at Crybaby Craig's, plus a hoodie. So send me your address and your hoodie size. And for anyone else out there looking for some Crybaby Craig's, PD10 at 10% off at crybabycraigs.com, or just go find it in your local grocery store as well. Shout out to Crybaby Craig's for our Crybaby events all season long. It's been an absolute blast partnering with them, so thank you so much. And go find your Crybaby Craig's at your local grocery store.
Yeah, and if you're looking to put out the fire, or maybe enhance the fire, some Pendleton whiskey. Pendleton whiskey is a partner of the Minnesota Vikings, and this is one of your last chances to get the 10-year stadium anniversary bottles here, the 2025 limited edition of Pendleton whiskey, where it's not just with Pendleton poured, it's earned, just like in Minnesota. Nothing's given. Not the yards, not the wins, not the respect. You earn those things. It's the same spirit behind Pendleton whiskey. Pendleton whiskey for Vikings game days and for reckless speculation season. 2025 Pendleton Distillers, ProximoSpirits.com. Please drink responsibly. Love it, man. 79 years old down in Tucson. The stink eye. Kevin O'Connell does have that.
Oh, he's got it.
Resting coach face.
He's got the stink eye. Yeah, he's got the stink eye.
Well,
he just can't hide it when his quarterback
Zimmer
misses
just hated
that.
you. Because Zim had the I
That was
hate
just his
you
face.
eye.
That was just
like
his face.
I want to rip your throat out.
Plus, he also had a bad eye. Like so naturally,
He did have
it
a
was-
bad eye.
Yeah.
That was.
But I mean when
kind of
Zim was
luck.
when Zim was mad, it wasn't like, oh, that's a stink eye. It's like that was a stink face.
Yeah, he can't. Kevin O'Connell just can't. When he sees that brilliantly designed deep in cut, 21 yards down the field, and his young quarterback is not seeing it the way that he should. I will say just one response Jim laid out. I love how Jim came like very prepared too. With he had kind of a written out essay
Notebook.
there.
Yeah, nice notebook.
And it is not. I do generally believe that you got to take advantage of the rookie scale contract clock, as it were, and the Packers, like after 9 games of Jordan Love, had to decide because they sat him for 3 years. Oh, I guess we're going to throw him out there for $55 million a year now because we waited so long.
Mm-hmm.
But given his age, McCarthy, 22 years old, obviously, if you were to pull back and make him a backup, you're taking away some of the value of the rookie scale contract, and that's a huge reason why you draft a quarterback to begin with. But it isn't too late still to say, you know what? All right, we definitely see some things, and we really like some of the things we've seen. But for this next year, you're going to be a backup quarterback. And obviously things could change in week 3 and the starting quarterback that Mac Jones or whoever they go acquire. But like he's under contract for 3 more years.
Yeah.
So like nothing would stop you from keeping him in the organization if you like his upside, letting him turn 23 in January, letting him mature a little bit, figure out ways to stay healthy, maybe get some more weight back on the frame because he apparently lost 40 pounds after the meniscus surgery. Like you can still kind of implement that if you wanted to.
I don't think he's gone unless he actually gets traded in a deal for a big game hunting QB. But the other question, though, too, is now that we know if J.J. McCarthy is reinserted at QB, what are you going to ask him to do schematically, offensive-wise? Because I don't think on his best day he is necessarily a perfect fit. I mean, you've got to run the ball more. And so on opening day of next season, are we going to see O'Connell have evolved a bit? And I don't care if your quarterback is Kirk Cousins, Stafford, or McCarthy. Or is this just who he is, and he is going to go back to what week 1 was this season? Because if that's the case, then if I'm McCarthy, I'm like, okay, I'll try, but watching his skill set, I don't know that that's his skill set. This is why I'm absolutely floored. And the unfortunate thing to Jim's point was the way that you get a generational quarterback is to wait for a generational QB draft, which I think Thor said 27 is, and then you just suck.
Well, 23 was too, maybe with some of the guys that were in there. But
sure,
you're not.
But I'm just saying, if you wanted Drake May, like the way to do that is you're just terrible, which this organization has no patience for.
I mean, yeah, but like, there's generational quarterbacks that don't go in the top 2 or 3. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs moved up 17 spots in the draft. There is no world in which the Vikings consciously try to lose games in 2000, like as an organization in 2026.
Agree completely.
Or any year. Like the Wills have never leaned into that in the history of their ownership going back over 20 years.
But like if your great lament now is, my gosh, if you could have just made the trade with the Patriots, right? Like if you somehow could have found a way, give them 5 first-round picks, I don't care. The reality was the Patriots were like, we're in the catbird seat, baby. We think Drake May is awesome. we're taking him. The only way, but I agree completely. This is the problem with the lack of patience. There is no world, unless you're going to find a quarterback, again, like at 10, who is a generational talent. But, if Drake May was the guy, and from all appearances, I think he was, the Patriots got him for a reason because they were willing to suck it up and be absolutely terrible.
What I would actually be looking to do, because again, if you're going to draft a quarterback again in 2027, which is possible, because you'd have another year's worth of information on McCarthy at that point, and he'd be that much closer to the rookie scale contract no longer being a valuable thing. I don't think you're going to be drafting the quarterback of your dreams because you went 3-14. Even in a disaster year, they found a way to get to 9-8, for God's sakes. The last disaster year they had, when Cousins tore his Achilles, they found a way to go 7-10. So it's just it's a franchise that is constantly competitive, save for maybe once every 12 years where they have a 3-win kind of blow up. But I don't think that's happening next year. So the only other way to have that level of maneuverability is to have extra first and second round picks of ammunition that you can use to go up the board. So part of what I would be doing here in the next few months is, even on draft night, are there ways you can either move back in the draft? So short term, you're moving back in the draft, but you're getting an extra first round pick in 2027, or an extra second round pick, extra ammunition for that quarterback draft class in 2027. And we're getting way ahead of ourselves, because I still think there's a chance McCarthy could be the quarterback for the next 10 years, even though a lot of people don't want to hear that conversation. The other thing you could do is look for assets on your current roster that might be worth a first, second, or third round pick to bolster. Jonathan Grenard, for example, could be on that list.
We tried, though. We tried that exact thing in the year that Kirk got hurt. Daniil Hunter's sitting there and his contract's expiring. It's like, go get a first round pick or a second round pick, because you're definitely. I think at the worst, if you had traded him at the deadline in 23, I think at the very worst, you're getting a second round pick. I think you probably get a first round pick.
Okay, but
and they wouldn't even do that.
Okay, but that's 2 years ago in the middle of a season that. But you're talking about at the deadline in the middle of a season.
Yes, but my point to you is the same point that you made to me. They never go down the path of, hey, what if we made those trades? Or what if things fell off and we weren't that good? They won't go down that path. The Wilfs have never shown the willingness to even entertain any of those things. And that's where we have a problem, because we both agree that sometimes that's the wise move.
And I'm not talking about tanking. I'm talking about getting ahead of the market and getting a year or two in front of a move that you're going to make anyways. Like Jordan,
but they won't do that.
Is Jordan Addison worth a second round pick to someone in the NFL? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
This name is going to. I'm getting way out in front of reckless speculation here, but
reckless speculation.
Christian Darrisaw. I think you'd have to eat so much of that contract. You're probably a year or two early on that, but he's been injury prone. Clearly had a falling out in some form with the organization over the handling. I mean, just weird vibes throughout the last few months. I'm just saying, can you get creative so that you're not if they would have had more assets 2 years ago, if Drake May was the guy, they would have been. Maybe there was no offer the Patriots would have said yes to. But it's very obvious that they wanted Drake May number one after, I don't know where they had Caleb Williams, but they had him very high on their list. So anyway, let's go back to the vent lines here, boys. Who's next, Dex?
Yeah, let's go to Vikings DNA.
Yeah, let's go to Vikings DNA.
Ooh. DNA, I think you probably might be watching the show on your TV. If you are, just mute it. I'll come right back to you after this next caller, but we had some nasty feedback there. In the meantime, Sam, what's going on, man? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
Greetings, gentlemen. Good to be back on with you. Kind of a sad day. The Vikings season was kind of crappy. It's the end of Vikings football. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do with myself. I had a couple of quick hitters, and there was just one that I had to get out here. This potential Vikings fan in training was extremely upset at that Kirk Cousins idea. She was totally fine until Kirk Cousins was brought up. He's the kind of guy that I feel like Mike McCarthy's going to get him a $1 million fully guaranteed, no trade clause, 1-day contract just to retire. And I'm kind of out on that personality.
He's going to leverage all the former Cousins teams. Who wants Cousins to retire? As Falcon, Viking, Commander?
No trade clause, just to retire. But anyway, had one quarterback idea that was kind of touched on a little bit, and then just one kind of quick hit. I know the Kwesi Grigson thing has kind of been hit to death, but something occurred to me as I was watching this Will Ferrell gem the other day of Step Brothers, and this whole Kwesi era of the Vikings kind of feels like the interview scenes from Step Brothers, where he goes in like, okay, this is cool, yeah, I get it. You're gonna wear the tuxedos. It's ironic, but it's cool. This is going well. We're gonna hire the numbers guy. It's super savvy. Go outside of the main thought process and hire someone that's not just a football lifer. Like, okay, seems like it's going pretty cool. There's a couple of good draft picks, a couple of not so good picks, and then one really good free agency class. All right, when can you guys start? And then we just let the loudest fart rip this season, from some of the offseason moves to just how this quarterback decision played out. And then suddenly, now the tuxedos are kind of messed up. Now it seems kind of messed up that we went with the guy that has not had anything to do with football. I know he was a part of some other front offices in kind of a secondary role, but the guy that was never really like a football lifer. Like, now it seems kind of messed up. Now I don't know if we should really have that job. So maybe the idea would be to move forward with someone that is much more that traditional football lifer. That's not Ryan Grigson, who murdered Andrew Luck's career. But just some quick thoughts. The last one I'll leave you with quick. So quarterback idea. Who says no first if you swap JJ for Penix? They're both kind of injury prone. One is younger. Penix, at least, it seems like he's a much more refined thrower of the football, so that might fit in better with KOC's system. And we don't exactly have a Bijan Robinson here, so JJ would fit in perfectly as a handoff merchant in Atlanta. Get a couple of throws in there. And yeah, just lastly, I'll hop off. It was great to see you guys again. Dex is a new father this year, new father this year. Sonny starts teething. But until then, great to see you guys.
Thanks, man. Sam, thank you for jumping in. Who would you rather right now if you had to bet on a quarterback's career, Penix or McCarthy?
Oh, God, they're both hurt so much. And if I had to bet on a quarterback to succeed with O'Connell, it would be Penix for sure. I think it's a complete wash between the two, though. Like, they've both been hurt, and Penix has what? I think this ACO is the different knee than the one that he tore in college 2 or 3 times. So I think we are talking about a different knee. But I would.
Does that make you feel better or worse about it?
No. I would bet right now that KO would take Penix though.
Yeah,
because of the arm.
Do we know yet if both were available at 10 in 2023? Which one of them KO would have chosen?
Speculation was it would have been Penix. Mm-hmm. That he would have taken Penix, and that the Vikings were very surprised and a little bit disheartened by the fact that the Falcons surprised the world by taking Penix right after they had signed Cousins.
Yeah, we can flesh this next question out throughout the coming weeks here, but just like a quick answer from you guys. If there was a pie chart and there was only 2 slices, a pie chart of J.J. McCarthy skepticism, what percentage would you give to durability? What percentage would you give to ability? And can you land the math plane?
Yeah, it's also very important.
It's just very simple. You got this, Dex.
I would say 60% to the durability and 40% to the ability.
And landed the math plane.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Go Huskies.
I would say 95% to the durability and 5% ability.
Wow. I thought Positive Phil was going to come in 80-20 and be controversial.
I mean, I have no faith that he can stay healthy. And by the way, that stunt today in taking on the linebacker from the Packers, I believe, doesn't help me. Like, what are you even thinking? Like, what are you doing? That was a stupid and it's great to look at that. Let's just forget the penalty for a second, which also is stupid. What are you doing? You're playing her. Like, are you trying? Like, did O'Connell make you play? And so you're like, screw it. I'm going to show him how tough I am. Like, what was that? But if that's what you're going, if that's your approach to your career, then I got no faith that you're ever going to show me that you A, have the ability, or B, that you don't, because you're always going to be hurt.
Yeah. It's like the NFL, I need the quarterback to be more, if there's another pie chart, I need you to be like 90% cerebral and 10% physical. I need you to be tough and be durable and all those things. But, it's like he gets joy in showing how physical he can be and how tough he can be and how he's a football guy. That's okay. Those are like good traits to have internally. but I need the cerebral part to overrule the physical, primal, show you how tough I can be part. Otherwise, you're going to wind up like him trying to stay in bounds and take guys on and get out there. How many times are you going to roll those dice before another injury pops up? You know, like he's lucky that he didn't get concussed or something or dislocate his shoulder trying to show how tough he was. So I'm with you on that, but I'm like 80%. I know there's questions about his ability and the accuracy, but I feel like those are going to get smoothed out if given enough durability. So I know there were some clunker games early in the season, but I'm much more concerned about can he stay on the field. If you were to guarantee me he's going to stay on the field for 17 games next year, I'd say, I think he takes a major leap in productivity and statistics and all those things because I think there's a player in there somewhere. But we never get to see it for more than like 5.5 minutes at a time.
Right. Well, and that's what got me today was all the questions about, because I kept saying, why did the kid play? Everyone's like, he needs reps. He needs reps. He doesn't need reps with his hand hanging by a thread. He needs reps that are applicable reps to, okay, I can show my ability because, look, I don't expect him to be healthy, but the dude had a fractured hand. So I think you were just I think everyone was just being stubborn. But he needs to be at a place where you trust that he can play without doing something dumb. And today, again, he did something dumb.
All right, back to the vent lines here. Dex, who do we got next? Purple Daily.
Yeah, let's try Vikings DNA again here. All right. DNA, we got you now. No echo, man. What's going on?
Gentlemen, you guys are celebrities to me, so I just want to say appreciate you guys. I just want to fix the Vikings right now, and I think us four collectively can do it with just simplicity and logic. I have just main cons and pros, but I just want to obviously, just like last time, I want to start with Kevin O'Connell. I obviously, Brian Flores has been our identity this whole year. He was last year. And if you take him away, if he does get traded, we're going to be left with KOC possibly coaching either Mac Jones or Lamar Jackson. It was Daniel Jones, a lot of the chat was saying, until he broke his leg. And I just don't have any faith in that. I don't have any faith with his clock management. At this particular point, I could honestly argue that KOC is the worst coach in our division over Campbell, Ben Johnson, and LaFleur. Matt LaFleur was kind of like this game looking across the field, just like, buddy, I almost beat you with my backup, and I don't even want to be here. And it was just bad. It was just the energy was bad. And I feel like right now he is doing things off script just to kind of like stick it to us. But I feel like that's because he doesn't care about JJ. The last time I was here, I got really attacked because I'm not a big fan of JJ McCarthy. I think he is a backup, and I'm okay with that. And I think the Vikings should embrace that we found a solid backup. I obviously, and let me put something else to rest with the Viking fans out there. Sam Darnold, I was more upset that we let Daniel Jones go because Sam Darnold, if you look, the last few games, he's had, I think, 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and a lot of his drives have been off of field goals. So let's not go too far on the Sam Darnold thing. I think we will all get gratitude when this first playoff comes. I think the running game has been a lot better for them, so that's kind of why they've been able to do what they're doing. But as far as just the reason I'm so upset with KOC right now, if you look at it, obviously he's wasted Harrison Smith's year. He wasted CJ Ham, and he's wasted Justin Jefferson with not having a backup plan for a quarterback that I just don't think anybody has faith in anymore. Over the fact that he's been hurt, I will also say that we can – the whole Kwesi, my brother who jumped on here earlier, that was a horrible take with the Kwesi thing. Kwesi couldn't identify Justin Jefferson in makeup when he was doing his little prank. So how are we going to have faith in Kwesi when it comes time to draft? I don't think he's doing a good job with that. I honestly don't think he should have let Cam Bynum. I don't think Harrison Phillips. You can argue there's a lot of people that we could have just kept and our defense would have been good. Brian Flores seems to find a way to work it out. And the last two things, really, I think it's very ironic that we are making such a big deal about Brian Flores leaving. I think that's an indictment on KOC. I think that's a very big indictment on KOC not having an identity for the Vikings. And Judd, I'm a big fan, and I kind of heard you throughout this podcast of trying to go through the bucket of quarterbacks. You guys already know what I'm about to say, but I'll just keep it real short. Obviously, we want Joe Burrow. Obviously, we want Lamar Jackson. The only other people that are like logical, because a lot has to happen, is going to be Kyler Murray, Mac Jones, and Baker Mayfield. I do not want to rely on KOC coaching Mac Jones. I just feel like in that situation, Mac Jones is thriving because of Kyle Shanahan. And I think that if you take away Kyle Shanahan, Mac Jones doesn't revive his career. So now in that same situation, you're going to bring him over here and hope KOC can kind of quarterback whisper. I don't like that. So then Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, they're kind of more quick to go off script. I think that Kyler Murray right now, out of everybody that needs to be projected to come over here, that's reasonable with the cap and everything that's going on. If you have him, and let's be honest, he's a first-round draft pick. He's clearly had some type of trade value, which is another indictment on KFC. If we had any kind of trade value right now, I think it's gone with J.J. McCarthy, with him getting hurt now again, which was, I think, a horrible decision on the actual organization. It's like any sport or any business, any podcast, you do not tragically end your goods. You don't do that kind of thing. So I just think in the scheme of things, if you have somebody like Kyler Murray to just hold the ship on these third downs, think about that game when KOC almost blew it with Detroit with the timeout, when we almost blew that game. That's like those things I feel like he was doing because he didn't have any faith in JJ. So I can end it with 1,001 things, but I'm just last time. Let's give 2 shout outs to Myles Garrett for breaking the record. I think that was an amazing. I'm glad that I'm alive to see that. If I'm not alive to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl, I am glad I got to see the record being broke. And my hot take, and I'll end it. Harrison Smith, in my opinion, if we do lose Brian Flores, let's keep him as special teams. Maybe we could get him in a defensive coach because he's been clearly calling the plays. I just have more faith in that. But guys, keep going. I'm going to keep watching, and Vikings for life, win or die.
Vikings DNA coming in. Kyler Murray, your thoughts?
I don't know. I think he's got the arm to run this. Does he have the style of play that KO wants? I certainly would entertain it. I need to look more into it, though. Because I don't, again, what we have learned this season is Kevin O'Connell has a very particular set of rules for what he wants. So I certainly would not close the door immediately. Does it come top of mind, though, when we're talking about potential options? No, but I do think that he's gone. So I think it's going to be a possibility, but it would be in the same bin now as, like, there's going to be a lot to vet through, and there's only, again, a handful of guys that pop into my mind as, like, sure bets. The interesting thing, though, let's go back to the Mac Jones thing. And by the way, he's going to cost too much. And for those who say, well, Kirk Cousins, the Falcons are going to need him, the San Francisco 49ers have Mac Jones signed to, as far as I know, very reasonable contract for 2026, and Brock Purdy gets hurt a lot. So like, if we want to talk about, hey, you know what, we'll trade him, but it's going to be like a first-round pick, which, by the way, I'm not going to give up a first-round pick. But the interesting parallel between Mac Jones and Darnold is this. You could trace their real rehab being done more and more now to Shanahan. Like, because Darnold played here, we talked about it, but Darnold, to his credit, was giving Kyle Shanahan credit and still does. It feels like Darnold now talks about his year in San Francisco more than his year here. Yeah. So is Mac Jones a changed QB, perhaps? But I think if we're going to have discussions about, I don't think he gets traded, Mac Jones is near the top of my list because San Francisco's done a great job. They've got a year left on that contract, and Brock Purdy, if you guys saw the end of the game last night, damn near got broken in half.
Yeah, he is a little, I'm not going to say fragile, but like he's definitely susceptible.
Not a big guy, yeah.
I mean, Kyler, this is a great time for Arizona to trade Kyler Murray. They've already tipped their hand very obviously that they're out on him. They would only have to eat like $17 million of the $53 million cap hit for next year. But the problem is for the team taking him on, including the base salary and bonuses, you'd be taking on still like a $35 or $40 million per year chunk. It kind of varies from that's between $30 and $40 million for sure for the next 3 years. And the Vikings are $45-50 million over the cap. So they'd have to find a way to say goodbye to some players and veterans. And he would be, if you did make that move, you would 100% be starting Kyler Murray at that price. And I think Kevin likes the big, tall quarterback that can see over the line of scrimmage. You know, the 6 foot. What's Darnold? 6'3". JJ
I
is
agree with
6'1", 6'2", whatever he is. I mean, Kyler Murray is maybe 5'11", and often, and he's even talked about. I mean, he scoots out of the pocket and keeps plays alive with his legs like he's one of the improvisational quarterbacks in the league. And from a leadership standpoint, I think he would drive KOC nuts. But in terms of like the pattern of buying stocks when they're low, like he would definitely fit the case. He's going to be in the group of quarterbacks we will discuss. Dex, who's next on Vent Line here?
Yeah, let's go to Matthew next year. Hey, Matthew, what's going on, man? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah, we got you, man.
Oh, sweet. So my wife told me I shouldn't be on because she doesn't like my idea. But here's the plan. We got literally a generational defensive coordinator. We got a generational wide receiver. Like, hands down, both people love them. I actually love watching games now because I'm like, what is Flores going to do? How bad are we going to crush the offense? Right. So let's literally just go all in, and it's throw. We can't keep both, right? Because right now we don't have a quarterback to throw to Jefferson. He's too awesome to like have on a team and like not give him 1,500 to 2,000 yards a year because you're wasting Jefferson, right? And so I get KOC likes him, whatever. Let's keep Flores. It's easier. It's easier to do it, right? Because we got him in house. Let's keep him, pay him, put him as head coach, just like Harbaugh is down for San Diego right now. And then we say, KOC, nice having you. You literally can't change. Like you're a good coach if we run your system, but we don't have the quarterback for you. There's like 4 quarterbacks in the league that are good for you, right? So we get rid of Jefferson, get 2 first rounders, maybe 3, but they got to be high first rounders, right? So no one likes this. My wife literally loves Jefferson. She's a teacher, so she shows it to the kids at school, everything, right? But we got to do it. And then next year we get rid of Hawk because he can't block. And he really can't catch that much anyway. And we get another guy like Oliver or bigger, like that 270-pound guy from the Steelers. And then we just do 13 offense all the time, like, right? And then guess what? That's McCarthy. What did he do in Michigan? This is him. And like I've seen flashes. I'm a big fan of him. And guess what? Is he going to be this? Is he going to be Brett Favre and never go down again? Probably not. But who doesn't? Burrow goes down. Lamar goes down. All these good quarterbacks are injured. Even what's his name from the Kansas City? He got injured. So it happens. Right? I get that McCarthy happens all the time now, but let's go with McCarthy. Let's go all in on Flores. And we got to say goodbye to KOC. We got to say goodbye to Kwesi. And sorry, Wolves, it's going to cost you some money to do all this. That's my idea. Thanks.
All right, Matt coming in against the wishes of his wife, delivering some theories and some takes here. So for anyone that is entertaining the idea of trading Justin Jefferson, because I know there's some rumblings out there in the dark corners of Vikings internet. Like, what's the point in having him? You know, he dropped passes this year, whatever. Like, he's expensive. So if you traded him this spring, you would take on a $46 million dead cap hit, which is higher than his $38 million regular cap number for next year. So it would trading him would push you from right now $49 million over the cap to $56 million over the cap, and you wouldn't have Justin Jefferson anymore on your team. Now that clears out space beyond 2026, but it would just be like it would be a total white flag move for 2026 if you entertain that.
And you know what? Justin Jefferson, maybe you would entertain that if he was a bad guy, right? A bad teammate. If he had caused problems. If he was demanding a trade, you might. You might not too. But I don't see the logic in trading a guy who, at least publicly, has been as good a soldier as you can possibly be. And I'll go back to what I said. I don't think he is like declining. He had a rough year in part because he didn't have quarterback consistency. So among the levers that I would pull, and God knows I'd like to pull some, I would not be trading him.
Yeah, I agree.
No way.
Let's go back to the vent lines here, Dex.
Yeah, let's go to George. George, how you doing, man? You're on.
Good to see you guys again. Last time we spoke, I believe I had a rant against KOC after the Philly game. Gave an analogy that Phil didn't like about Kansas City, but I'm not going to do that this time, Phil, so we can get right to the point. I'm a problem solver. I run my own business. I just look at things methodically and dissect them as best I can and move forward and solve problems. And that's where we're at now. So let's take the emotion out of it. I mean, if I wanted to take a hot take, I'd just say, hey, yeah, trade KOC, keep Flores. He's your guy. He's your asset. Let's move forward. That's honest. That's not going to happen. We know that. I get the perspective. So I just want, like, there's been some great callers today. Jim, I love seeing the old guy make perspective on things. He's frustrated. I feel that too. I've been a Viking fan for over 50 years. I live in a warm state too here, Southern California. I love the young guy's take it easy. I don't know what his name was. His shirt was take it easy. Great observations. Here's how I would look at our team now. If I could be Viking king for a day, and I could sit down with the wuss, and I could say, hey guys, here's what we got. We got a generational wide receiver and potentially a generational defensive coordinator. And I say that because the rest of the league is mimicking Flores more and more. I mean, more defenses look like his defense. And really, he's done a great chess match with not very good pieces, to be quite honest with you, at many positions. And that's how you know you got a great coordinator. And I look at my Vikings fan tenure, and I look at some of the things that we've let get away over the years. Fran Tarkenton got away the first time before I really became a Viking fan. But more importantly, Carroll and Tomlinson both got away. And these were maybe not generational coaches, but definitely top tier coaches that changed the franchises they went to for years eventually. And we have that now with our main guy here on defense in B-Flow. We can't let this guy get away. The problem is, I mean, we were granted a gift, let's be honest. KOC's first choice in defensive coordinators was terrible. And B-Flow fell into his lap because of the NFL's blackballing of him. And that's not going to last forever. And there's already rumors going around that the Raiders, who are themselves kind of a blackballed franchise.
Yeah, you could actually get Pete Carroll. He's like 74.
Yeah. Well, no, that's okay. I'll take B-Flow. I'm okay with him. You might not like him, but I'm good with him. So my point is this, and Pete Carroll had his time and he's gone. I don't want any retreads. I want the guy that's changing the league today. All right. So my point is, what I would do if I were management is I'd sit down at the end of the season and I'd keep this real. I'd sit down with B-Flow and I'd say, man, whatever it takes to keep you here. I negotiated deals best I could. He'd be the highest paid defensive coordinator and he'd have head coaching type money. And he'd be here next year. And then at the same time, I look at KOC and I tell him, here's the way this is going to work. You're no longer de facto offensive coordinator. You're going to hire a real guy. And if he won't go with it, so be it. Move him on. But he will, because he's been embarrassed. There's no doubt about it. He's been embarrassed as a coach. And he's squirming, and you can see it in his reactions in his press conferences, his actions on the sideline. He's trying to save face at this point. Now, look, I don't know you're going to be able to keep B-Flow. That's going to be tough. But I would do this, and I would force KOC to hire a real offensive coordinator. And by the way, he'd be on a short leash next season if he tried to influence that offensive coordinator if I had B-Flow in the background. That would be my plan as an owner or a king for a day in regards to the Vikings.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think B-Flow is going to be a good NFL head coach. I think he was a pretty good NFL head coach in Miami, given, that is in terms of Stephen Ross, the owner, and just the resources they had on that roster at the time. That was not a loaded roster, and he is still grinding that to, I think, a couple like 500-ish seasons in Miami, and then the whole thing kind of got blown up. So what do you do with that information? If you guys disagree, that's cool, but if we or the Vikings and the market, like the league, thinks that Brian Flores is going to be a really good NFL head coach, you just say, I guess he's going to be a really good head. Good luck wherever you wind up here during this hiring cycle.
I think he's a really good defensive mind. Here's the funny thing, and I've said this before. I think KO is a good head coach. I think he's had a terrible season play calling. So, like, the thing about stripping him, now, if you stripped him of his ability to call plays, you probably should fire him, unfortunately. But as good as Tomlin was, there's a lot of coordinators who are fantastic at what they do. It doesn't mean that they are meant to lead an entire roster. And I think as far like this team did win, and I know that this game was awful, but they won 5 consecutive games. They never quit. And I'm going to tell you, at 4-8, I think that's a great accomplishment. A lot of teams quit. They didn't quit. Nobody quit. And so I actually think the KO did a good job as a coach with the locker room. Look, when they fired Zimmer, the toxicity that existed at that time was very real. Like, that was not a joke or not made up to fire him. That place was toxic. And Kevin O'Connell came in and changed it. And unless you guys disagree completely with me, I don't think that place has been toxic since O'Connell arrived. I think he does a really good job with his players. I think he keeps them all on the same page. I don't sense, how easy would this season have been for the defense to start taking pot shots publicly at the offense? Brian Flores, I don't know. I know that he is masterful at what he does. But all of that being said, the one thing I agree with the caller on is I think you do have some real questions now about how Kevin wants to run his offense. And is he so stubborn about it? Is he willing, to look at McCarthy now and say, you know what, for next year, you're going to compete for the job, but I'm going to continue to come to you as well, to your side of the fence. And so, because what I want is on the opening day of camp, you are running an offense that you are entirely comfortable in. So it's funny. With Flores, schematically, no questions. I think he's magnificent. But I have questions about an entire roster, and offense in particular. With O'Connell, I think he is really good at running the show. But right now, schematically, a ton of questions.
The other thing I love about B-Flow, and just as a schematic mastermind defensively, is he takes the job. And he did have Danielle Hunter his first year, right? Because then Danielle became a free agent and they moved off in this.
He had a lot of Ed's guys from Ed's year here, yes.
But Danielle Hunter was the best individual player on that defense and remains. If you ranked every defensive player on the Vikings and Danielle Hunter, who's with the Texans, Danielle Hunter is still the best individual defensive player if you were to rank them all. And so between his first and second year, you remove an individual contributor like Danielle Hunter, and they get better defensively because of Brian Flores' scheme. And he's doing this without Pro Bowlers. He's doing this without a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby or a TJ Watt. Harrison Smith is a legend, but he's on the back end of his career here. So it's even more impressive. And similarly with the Dolphins, at one of those years with the Dolphins, he went from 32nd to 6th in yards per play defense or whatever the category was. And you looked around, I think Van Ginkel was on that team. He did have the Gangster. But it wasn't like he had 5 incredible Pro Bowl caliber players and future Hall of Famers. His scheme is destructive. And with Kevin O'Connell, it feels like you need very specific types of, you need a specific type of quarterback. And with B-Flow, you need some guys with really high football IQs and flexibility and whatnot. But as a schemer, I feel like Brian Flores is equal, if not better, at his job compared to Kevin O'Connell as a schemer, offense versus defense. Now, in terms of leadership of a 53-man room and coaching staff, I think Kevin has done largely a great job at that, keeping things together during a couple tumultuous seasons. B-Flow, maybe not the coziest leader, going back to his Miami days and even some of the stuff here in Minnesota. But
I think circa, let's say, 1985 to 95, B-Flow would have been great. But today's generation, I think, needs to be coddled a bit more, and KO's good at that. But as far as schemer goes, I don't think that there's a case to be made that you're wrong right now. Like we just saw it. He took the last couple of years. Flores has taken Blake Cashman, who we knew was good, hurt a lot, and a year ago was a standout. And now I think he's incredibly solid, right? A year ago, or in March, I'm sorry, they signed Eric Wilson to play special teams. That's his job. That's his job. And we all said, okay, he could contribute a little bit. They replaced Ivan Pace with Wilson, and Wilson had a season that's going to get him paid. So there is no question. The other thing I think that the schematic part of this conversation where Brian Flores deserves credit, because it's been talked about quite a bit, is he empowers his players. I don't think Kevin empowers his players. Like, as far as the scheme goes, like Brian Flores has openly talked about the players are the ones on the field. I might make the play calls, but they might change things because they have to, right? Like, think about that. So, but yeah, I think as far as Flores' personality and approach, there was a time head coach wise, but today's players are so different. And so I do think that could be a problem, but I'm with you. Like, everything that we've seen from Flores design wise and execution wise, for the most part, everything has been really impressive for a long time.
Last thought on Flores here, and then we'll get to a few more vent liners here as we wrap up the final in-season edition of Vikings Vent Line here for the 2025 season. I think B-Flow's style of coaching and personality definitely creates a wider variance of what could happen. Like, it definitely creates the possibility that he could have a falling out with his quarterback, or guys could kind of turn on him. But if Miami is the only evidence we have of Brian Flores head coach, and it's deemed this tumultuous tenure where he's butting heads with everybody and alienating his starting quarterback, his second year in Miami, they went 10-6 in a division that included the Buffalo Bills and, well, the Patriots were kind of coming down from the Brady era. That was like right at the end of the Brady era, maybe the last competitive Belichick season. 10-6. And then the following year started really poorly, 1-7. Oh, the wheels are coming off. Brian Flores has lost everything. They went on from 1-7 to finish 9-8. They almost won out from the end of October through December. So that team, not only did they not quit on Brian Flores or not take to his coaching style or personality, they rallied and galvanized around Brian Flores. So I just want to, not that like what we say on this podcast has anything to do with whether he's going to get hired as a head coach, but like there's a lot of narratives about his personality that I feel like, while sort of true, like he's kind of, a very serious, maybe somewhat abrasive personality, did not reflect necessarily in the results he was getting as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He took a disaster organization with not a lot of great pieces and had 2 winning seasons his last 2 years in Miami as a head coach. What if you give him an actual organization or a real quarterback? So, anywho, before we get to the rest of the vent liners here, boys, couple things. This Friday at Mystic Lake, I want to shout this out again because we'd love for you to join us. It's a free event at Mystic Lake's Hop House, our next Purple Daily Unplugged event as we dive into our first off-season blueprint episode. And it'll be interactive. You guys can help us play general manager as we go through the entire Vikings offseason at Mystic with the spreadsheet of glory, food and drink specials, 6 to 8 o'clock. The three of us, our guy Thor, and there's a college football playoff game happening that night too. So we'll all be watching on the bajillion TVs they have. Mystic Lakes Hop House, Friday, January 9th. You can find out more information at purpledaily.com/unplugged. Also, a shout out to Underdog Decks, making football fun to sweat these weekends.
Yeah, especially in the month of January, man. You have college football playoffs, you have the NFL playoffs, you have the NHL. NBA season still obviously going in full swing. It's kind of a low key. I don't feel like we talk enough about how awesome the month of January really is if you're a sports fan. And the best thing about Underdog is you can get in on all that action, cross-sport entries. When you play your first $5, you get $75 in bonus entries. Keep sending me those wins too. Sign up with promo code SCORE, SKOR. You play that first $5 and you will receive $75 in bonus entries.
And then Blackstack powering Vikings Vent Line here. Blackstack, one of the best and largest tap rooms in the state of Minnesota. Some of the best craft beer you're going to find in the world. They are literally recognized around the world for the work they do in creating craft beer. They also have inside that tap room a 190-inch big screen TV. It's a great sprawling space for friend gatherings, work gatherings, family events, whatever it is. And if you walk into the tap room at Blackstack and mention that you heard about the glorious place at on Purple Daily, then you can get a beer on tap and a 4-pack to take home with you. So check them out. Check out Blackstack in St. Paul. We've had a couple fun events there, Purple Daily in the past, and let us know what you think. So, all right, Dex, back to the vent lines here.
Yeah, let's go to Ruff here. Ruff, what's up, man? How you doing?
Boys, what's up, guys?
Hey, man.
Y'all doing all right?
What's going on, Ruff?
Yeah.
That was a tough one. But here we are. It's the end of the year. and just a couple thoughts on it. Just a couple thoughts. First off, I think it was the best, most optimal type of season we could have. The football gods blessed us. We went 9-8. Amazing. It's exactly what I wish for every single year. That game was awesome. I loved every bit of it. It was thrilling. I think I liked it almost as much as our season as I liked that play where McCarthy trucked that dude and then he taunted him and gave up the rest of the drive, basically.
Yeah.
So much fun. That was amazing. Almost as cool as the season in a nutshell. Obviously, tongue firmly in cheek there. This, it hurts so much with the optimism I think all Viking fans had going into the year. Putting a lot of chips in, we finally got the young quarterback we had a lot of high hopes for. And what just kind of burns is going into the offseason, there are so many questions. It's difficult, but I just wanted to say thank you to you guys, putting what was a lackluster season and still putting it on every day for us to stay entertained and, follow this team that we care so much about. But genuinely looking forward to the offseason. I think this will be the most pivotal offseason for the Kwesi KOC era. There's a lot of questions where are we going to take that step to being a Super Bowl contender? And I would chalk up at this point the Dallas Turner pick to a win. I think he really showed out the last half. That is the one gem I've taken from this season. But to kind of throw it back on my last point here to, I think it was Bernard who called in. First off, love seeing Viking fans from all over the world call in. I live other parts of the country and I travel, and it's just fun to, you're at the airport and you see someone wearing Viking swag. So always fun to see that. But he mentioned, I think I agree very firmly with the rest of y'all. He said Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, he'd rather not have one his whole life. Give me Glenn Powell playing Chad Powers quarterback. I'll take a Super Bowl any day of the week. In fact, that might be something to look into. Maybe he's available.
Could you get the 17th ranked QBR out of Chad?
Chad Powers.
Chad Powers.
yeah. I think one could argue you might be able to.
I love it.
Anyway.
Ruff, thanks for jumping on, man. Nice jacket. People commenting.
It's very nice.
Ruff's awesome style there in the comments. Declan's stunt double. Yeah, I could see that.
Kind of, yeah.
Mustache
There's
game.
some parallel there. Let's see that.
All right. Who's next on Vent Line here? Don't be shy about hitting the subscribe button and the like button here, too, to help keep building this community on Purple Daily. Appreciate you guys.
Let's go to Eric next year. Hey, Eric, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How's it going?
Eric, what's up, dude?
Awesome.
I guess I just have a take for what I want to do this off season. I'm just a guy, so I don't know anything, but here we go. I would hire Rick Spielman back as GM. Give me a football guy that can draft a little bit.
Football.
And there you go. I would trade KOC and elevate Brian Flores. Can't let that guy go. That would be a huge mistake. And then I feel like Brian Flores' kind of quarterback would be Malik Willis, so let's sign him. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I would do. So Ziggy, let's get it done.
Wow, Eric coming in with the thanks, Eric. Appreciate you jumping on.
There's a lot of suggestions, it feels like now, and I'm not surprised about trading O'Connell. Here's my question. This is not 2024. What would you get? I mean, a year ago, I said first-round pick. I ain't saying first-round pick now.
It's a good question. Like, what would his value be? Because there are some desperate teams, but there's always coordinators that are getting their first shot.
Correct.
You don't have to give up a draft pick. So you'd have to weigh that.
Correct.
I mean, there's definitely coaches that would be worth first or second round picks for in the NFL. And a year ago, 100% he would have been one of those guys.
Yes.
And it's not that like he's deconstructed all of the goodwill, but his stock is lower than it was 12 months ago.
Well, yeah, because his calling card has sort of been lost. Like his calling card was the quarterback guy. Like that was not a Purple Daily thing. That was a league thing internally. Yep. And that's now in big time question. So yeah, I just don't know when we talked about trading him, which was likely not going to happen a year ago. I was saying, okay, but if you do, it's a first round pick at least. Now I'm very unsure of the price.
You know, you had brought up Kyle Shanahan earlier. Like we had that Darnold sort of Kyle Shanahan thread that we went down. And what's incredible about Shanahan since he joined San Francisco as a head coach in 2017. Now, he's actually one of the longest tenured head coaches in the league right now.
Yep.
And they've had different plans at quarterback. They've made a couple different moves, and they've had Garoppolo and Brock Purdy and little smatterings of Mac Jones and other guys. There's a Trey Lance period there. And I don't know that anyone would say that like he's had top talent at quarterback, but he's had guys that can run his system, and Brock Purdy certainly fits that bill. And man, like since 2018, like his worst offensive rank in terms of yardage, like yardage offense, his worst since 2017 is 16th in the NFL in 2018. They were 15th in yardage in 2020. Otherwise, it's 2nd, 4th, 5th, 7th, 4th, 7th. Like Kyle Shanahan and his system and their development, and coach helps to have Trent Williams at left tackle, and you got weapons, and I get that. But even in kind of weird years for San Francisco or injury years, it's a top 5 offense, like almost every year, or top 7 offense.
Yep.
And Kevin O'Connell, on the other hand, as head coach of the Vikings, we'll go apples to apples yardage offense. His best rank was 7th in 2022 with a fully healthy Kirk Cousins, 10th, 12th, now 29th. 7th, 10th, 12th, 29th. It has the Vikings yardage offense in terms of rank has gone down every year since he took over.
And 23 made sense because Kirk got hurt. But then, yeah, the decline. Well, and if you think about it, go look at how Kyle Shanahan runs his system. And I think it's not incorrect to say he's also adaptable to his quarterbacks that change, or he finds guys that can run what he wants. But I mean, he's also creative as hell. It was funny today. The Vikings ran a couple of plays just clearly trying to get Jefferson his 1,000 yards. They ran a couple of plays early, and I'm like, that's a play. And I know the Packers were playing with a bunch of backups, but still, they were sort of creative, and it's like that's how you get him the ball. You don't have to get him the ball how you perceive it. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, that shovel pass, which they have done a little bit more of late. Why is that not a staple?
It's so you're right, dude. It's like you knew they were going to come out and try to get Jefferson the football in that regard. And they're playing a bunch of backups on defense, so it's hard to really gauge what works, what doesn't. But
sure.
I was watching thinking the same thing, which is, this is how you would, if you're looking to, get your best weapon the football 12 times in a game or target him, 9 to 12 times minimum. This is how you would do it. Not everything has to be like a long developing deep in cut. Oh, we're going to get 8 of those today, and it's going to be great. So, yeah, let's go back to the vent lines here. We got a couple left for sure.
Yeah. Let's go to Evo. Evo, what's going on, man? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
Hi, how's it going, guys? First time being on. Super stoked to be here with you guys. I actually got 3 things today to kind of quickly go over. A vent, a pushback / question, and then a thanks. So my vent, and this is, I got to defend my guy, JJ McCarthy. I'm not as big of a fan as Thor, but I do like what I see from him. I'm seeing a lot on Facebook and X about, he's injured again, and he pulled himself out of the game. I thought he was tough, a hockey guy. Isn't this kind of what we asked for, is that if the guy has an injury that he's willing to kind of throw the hand up and say, hey, yeah, I could be a detriment. We saw this, he has the MCL tear last year and continues playing through that preseason game. He played through the high ankle, which is partially on coaching, but also on him in the Falcons game, which was my wife's first game. Got to go to that one, so that sucked. Traveled all the way from Arizona. Shout out to Jim in Tucson, a little further south than you are in Sierra Vista, as a military transplant. But that sucked seeing that. And then he has the concussion and then a hand issue, and he doesn't pull himself out early enough with the hand issue where he ends up fumbling the ball. There's questions, and Judd rightfully so questioned this a lot, whether or not he should even be playing in this game with that hand. And so for him to say, yeah, it is too much of a problem. They said the pain was an 8.5 out of 10, according to him, and didn't take Toradol shots. What are people looking for? Like this, it was a no-win for him to play in this game, really. It was, you're either going to say, hey, he did really good against a backup defense, or he did bad against a backup defense, or now he's had pull himself out of the game because of this injury. This is what we kind of asked for, is to recognize you're in a meaningless game. This is hurting too much. I could be a detriment. Let me get myself out of the game. That's kind of what we were asking for. So I'm coming to his defense. That's my first point in kind of event here.
By the way, like, I haven't pushed back a lot at Judd's take on this, but I'm totally fine that he played today. I actually, like,
me as well.
On the field, my opinion of him went up a tick based on adding more sample size from the first half. I know it's against a backup defense, whatever. And then, like, I also like the fact that he recognized early in the second half that, okay, I've gone a little too far here. I can no longer do this. And also the context of the game. If they had playoffs on the line, does he try to grind it out? But a big part of playing quarterback in any position in the league is, can you operate and perform and run the offense despite feeling kind of crappy? Like, you're not going to feel great playing NFL football. And if that was kind of a test today, I actually think he passed it. And then he passed it again with judgment early in the third quarter. So I kind of disagree with Judd, and I'm more aligned with Evo's take on this.
Yeah, but then again, I'll go back to what I said before. Then he should have played in the 2 games that he could have with the ankle. Like, you're either going to play him hurt and say, can you play hurt, or are you not? And the thing is, his hand was fractured, and so I just don't see in a meaningless game what you get. Like, okay, so he played hurt. His hand hurt like hell, and he had to take himself out. And I agree with you in the sense that I don't think, like, I guess I'm far more frustrated with O'Connell than JJ about this. And I don't think at the end of the day there was a way that this was going to end really well. So I didn't see the point. I just thought it was, to me this became, and so many things did, sort of a pissing contest. Well, he missed practice because of his baby. Okay, yeah, that's a problem. Mention it once. Don't mention it 18 times. Then, his mechanics are all off. We're going to work on those. It's not working. Okay, we're not going to work on those. This just got to be, by the end of the season, if I'm McCarthy and I'm O'Connell, I don't see how that relationship is in a good place. And that was my problem. Never felt like they were on the same page.
Real quick, before Evo jumps back in here, there is a quote here. McCarthy did just speak to the media like 10 minutes ago. And I'm getting this from Will Raggets, one of the beat writers down there. And McCarthy was asked if he feels he's earned the trust of the Vikings decision makers headed into the offseason. Quote from McCarthy: "In my opinion, I feel like I have, but at the end of the day, they have their own opinion. They have their own perspective. I just feel confident going into this offseason and content with where I'm at, because I feel like they know who I am as an individual and the potential and capability that this offense could have with me at the helm. But at the end of the day, it's all about the guys on the team. And from here on out, if I'm here, if I'm not, I love every single one of those guys and had a freaking blast playing for them." So he's already kind of speculating on not being here, I guess. Anyways, Evo, you get the last word here.
Yeah, so my pushback / question, and this is a little bit directed towards Judd, and again, I love your takes and everything, but there's a lot of talk about and deserved scrutiny towards KOC and his rigidity towards his system. We've been asking for a simplified system, or at least a simplified route tree, more 12, 13 personnel. And I think that we've seen that here towards the end of the year, but we keep on saying, like, he's so rigid, but we have seen a decent portion of the year now where he's been willing to switch, whether that is his choice or forces otherwise, we don't really know. But I don't know that that's going to necessarily change going into next year, as far as why wouldn't he want to cater towards what his young quarterback needs, assuming that JJ McCarthy is still the guy going forward. We applaud guys like Sean McVay, who obviously KOC's a disciple of this, for switching up his system in an offseason to run a lot more 12 and 13 personnel. And we've seen KOC start to modify the system, especially here in these last 5 games, towards these quarterbacks that need that help. With a full offseason, maybe we are going to see a much larger schematic change where it's not going to completely go away from KOC. I don't think we ever will, but that is leaning a little bit more into what the personnel on this team can actually do better. We know that the coaches spend the entire offseason gearing up this offense for what they want to do. And then all of a sudden, JJ comes out and he's not exactly where you want him to be. How easy is it to switch on a dime and switch back to a more subdued offense? And this is maybe more of a question for the O-line committee guys, because they've actually played the game. You can run a lot of different plays out of different formations. You can run the same play in 11 or 12 or 13, but do teams automatically have that built into their playbook? Is it that easy of a swap? And is it one that maybe KOC wasn't willing to switch to right away because maybe we do see more development. Or now we have to do these quarterback changes and go to a Carson Wentz who doesn't have to run the 12 to 13 personnel like a McCarthy would. There's a lot of scrutiny towards KOC, and absolutely deservedly so. But I think that we should probably wait and see before we go off trading him right away. Because I going into the season, he was looked at as one of the top 10, top 5 coaches in the NFL. Maybe he has the capacity to do that. I think we'd be selling him a little bit short to say that, oh, he's just going to be so rigid that he will not switch his system. My hope would be that he would start to cater more towards McCarthy, along with McCarthy developing into more of a traditional quarterback, that you could see a McVay-style swap in the offseason. That would be kind of my hope with that.
Yeah, Evo, thank you, man. Some good thoughts
Good
from
stuff,
you.
Evo.
Even going even further south in Arizona than Tucson. How far south can we go in Arizona? That's the new goal of Vent Line. Judd, any just thoughts off Evo's comments there before we get to?
I hope he's
Sean
right.
here?
I hope he's right. It's interesting in recent weeks that O'Connell though has talked about like the passing game has not been up to snuff. What we want to do. Hey, if he does it, awesome. I'll believe it when I see it. And if he does it, that's great, because now if it's McCarthy or not, you've opened the door to a lot more guys that can run a system. I guess I've just covered enough coaches that have actually believed that what they do is the best thing. So I'm also not going to assume it. I think it would be naive to assume that he is going to adjust. And yes, I'm not saying that they needed to overhaul the offense in week 3, but why were you not incorporating things? I mean, you had seen McCarthy. You knew who he was, heck, in college. Why were you not incorporating more things, which is what I expected, into the system to help him? Like again today, Justin Jefferson. Like this whole, there's nothing that drives me more up the freaking wall than Justin Jefferson's always covered. There's no way he can get the ball. Yes, there is. The Detroit game on Christmas Day. We talked about this one. Jordan Addison, who, by the way, is a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
And that's the first time that you think, you know what? We need to get the ball in his hands and we're going to have to be creative. So the lack of creativity and the stubbornness, I just, until I see it consistently, I'm going to assume that we're going to revert back to what Kevin wants. I hope I'm wrong.
Dex, we're going to let Sean finish it out here. Presented by SeatGeek. Great place to get tickets to sporting events, entertainment, whatever it is.
Yeah, 10% off, too. Any tickets with promo code PURPLE10, 10% off, whether it's maybe a playoff game, maybe an NBA or NHL game coming up, or just a concert. I mean, the options at SeatGeek are endless. It's not just for sporting events. There's comedy shows, there's plays, there's the theater, there's everything on there. So 10% off with for any tickets with promo code PURPLE10. Go download the SeatGeek app. It's in the App Store and Google Play Store. All right, Sean, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Hey, Sean. Yeah, we got you, man.
Awesome. Hey, so I've got a couple things. First thing's a little story. Went with my girlfriend who got me some awesome birthday tickets to the Dallas game a little while ago, and yeah, that was interesting. We had seats in the club right behind the Vikings sideline at the game, and we got Brian Flores' autograph, Van Ginkel's autograph, Aaron Jones, and Ben Lieber. Just shout out to one of the old guys. But B-Flow actually got asked a question by one of the guys sitting on the sideline. He's like, "Hey, you gonna be here next year?" And B-Flow was like, "I don't know. We'll see." So that's kind of where I am with that. It's like, I don't know. We'll see. So I guess that's kind of the whole take I have on that. I really hope the guy's back. I think he's the best defensive coordinator in the league right now. And I don't know what we're going to do about the McCarthy situation, honestly. Being a longtime Vikings fan, I've been paying attention since like 89 now. The whole jumping up in the draft, kind of reaching, it just feels like Ponder again, all over again, not to be a negative Nancy, but yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. And all these whiffs with Kwesi, it all seems to go hand in hand. So shout out to Will Reichert, been my favorite player this year, been awesome. Thanks guys, I appreciate it. Weekly listener since like 2021, so first time on the Vent Line, and Mackie, that one's for nothing. Anyways, see you guys later.
All right, see you, Sean. Sean, wrapping it up here. Any just, can on the Ponder thing for a second. What's an interesting parallel? His second year with the Vikings was 2012, and they won like 4 straight games down the stretch with him showing some flashes. They got to 10 wins to get to the playoffs. This team got to 9 wins to still come up short. So, but kind of similar, team was kind of scuffling until late in the season. Quarterback looks a little bit better. Defense kind of steps up. And then what the 2013 Vikings did was they brought in Matt Castle as a veteran quarterback to compete kind of with Christian Ponder. And just kind of, all right, let's make sure we got a couple of guys going into the season here, into training camp. And they leaned toward Castle, I believe, to start the season. I can't remember, actually. Maybe Ponder started the season. The way it played out is Castle started 6 games. Ponder started 9. Josh Freeman started the notorious Monday night game off waivers in the middle of the season. And so you might see something similar. We're going into year 3. We're not totally sold. Now, Ponder was 25 in his 3rd year. McCarthy's 3 years younger. I think he'll be 23, so 2 years younger than Ponder. But who is that veteran that they would bring in? And we'll be tossing out a bunch of names over the coming days and weeks. But the parallels there are kind of interesting.
And by that point, it was Zimmer, right? By 2013,
I thought 14 was Zimmer. Was
14.
So Les was there in 2013 still. Yep. And Ponder started the year as QB1.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was benched or got hurt, but then Castle.
And don't forget too that
better.
was the whole time period where it started off with Les when he got the job for 2000. So he got the job in 2010, and then 2011, he was kept full time. And he and Spielman actually that first year had personnel call had like half and half, which was the dumbest thing of all time. So Rick's the one that drafted Ponder, and Les at that time went out and got McNabb for his guy, and then they continued to bring in veteran backups. What I'm hoping here is that Kevin O'Connell has a more clear view of what he wants. Because the one thing that happened with the Ponder thing and then the Freeman thing, who, by the way, Freeman went in the first round of the 2009 draft to Tampa Bay the same year that the Vikings took Percy Harvin. Spielman loved him. So it got to be this very convoluted who's calling the shots. I hope that we have, if nothing else, if O'Connell's going to get this right, I hope he knows what he's doing enough that it's not, again, 18 cooks in the freaking kitchen.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, who knows at this point? But that's the one thing is you got to see this clearly that if you're not going to change, you got to go get a guy that can run this. I will say this. I'm all for developing things, but I don't want to see this again. Like bad quarterback play sucks.
Yeah, but it's like you can insulate it the way that they have. And this is my last thought here. And we have hottest takes tomorrow, our blueprint episode on Friday, but we'll be hitting off-season topics sprinting out of the gate today, tomorrow, here on Purple Daily. The last 5 games, mostly with McCarthy, but there's been some Roseman in the second half. The last 5 games, running heavier personnel packages, running the ball more often, period. The Vikings are averaging 5.5 yards a play, which would put them in the top half of the NFL offensively. Sure. On the season, they're at 4.8 yards per play, which is 28th in the league. So I haven't mathed out I think it's probably an extra yard per play offensively the last month and a half, committing more to heavier personnel, catering more to what a young quarterback like McCarthy would need. So take some of that at some point. Okay, take the training wheels off, whatever, but
I hope they do
take some of it in the offseason. All right, dudes, 2.5 hours here to put the 2025 season to bed and to look ahead. And this is the 6th season that we've been doing this live on YouTube after every game, the 3 of us with all of you. And we appreciate everyone who's been part of this for every post game, or maybe you're just jumping in, discovering us for the first time here. Welcome in Purple Daily. We'll be here 365 days a year, starting with the off season tomorrow. And we've got a bunch of fun stuff planned for the next few weeks and months. So thank you for riding out this tumultuous season with us. Hopefully we've provided you with the requisite amount of therapy maybe some celebration in there. Click that subscribe button and the like button here on the YouTube channel, Purple Daily. And if you're listening on demand on Apple or Spotify, a 5-star rating and a positive review can help as we grow what we think is the best Vikings fan community out there. So for the Sports Dad Dex, for our producer, or for the Sports Dad Judd, for our producer Dex, and myself, Phil Mackey, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning for Hottest Vikings Takes, 9 a.m. Central Time. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See ya.